Just the two of us. We can make it if we try, just the two of us. You and I. Just the two of us. We can make it if we try, just the two of us. You and I.
Things I disagree with Marco Rubio on, and I haven't decided yet about voting for him, but he is qualified. He has experience. We may have differences that would cause me to say, I don't think that he should be Secretary of State, and we'll go through that. We'll listen to the hearings. I want to hear very carefully from him. But what we're talking about with people like Matt Gaetz is very different from what we're talking about with people like Marco Rubio, and we just have to keep that in mind. But do understand with Matt Gaetz, and you've already made this point, he's not the only one out there who is unqualified and who raises whole questions like Tulsi Gabbard does. You really want her to have all of the secrets of the United States and our defense intelligence agencies when she has so clearly been in Putin's pocket? That just has to be a hard no.
Aye. Welcome to Sabby Sabs podcast. I'm your host, Sabrinasalvati. If you're new, I want to let you know that Sabby Sabs podcast is a part of Revolutionary Blackout Network. You can catch me there on Thursdays for the JB and Sabby show. And you can catch me here on Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and every other Sunday. Shout out to everyone watching on YouTube, Rockfin, Twitter, and Rumble. And welcome back, guys. Happy Thursday. We are very, very, very close to the weekend, and we have quite a bit to discuss tonight. Tonight's theme is on the chalkboard behind me. We live in a cartoon. We really do. And I think you're going to see that tonight with the stories that we have tonight. That was Elizabeth Warren there. Of course, she has to use the excuse of Russia, right? Russia. We can argue over whether or not we feel that certain people are qualified in the positions that Trump has appointed them. But at the end of the day, I don't think this has anything to do with Russia. Can we just admit that? Can we all agree to that? Thank you. Okay, let's go ahead and get shout outs to people in the chat, ladies and gentlemen. Oh my God, it's crazy time. We live in a cartoon. You're going to hear me say that quite a bit tonight. Quite a bit. All right. Shout out to Awesome Black Dude. Voters told the truth about the economy. Trump can't save it. He will wreck it. Ouch. What's going on, Joe? I think you mean Adam. Adam Schiff must be shaking about Tulsi. Greetings, Cood Kutzes says Adam Schiff deserves everything he gets. Well. Greetings, Sabine. Did you hear Trump wants to implement reparations for white people for discrimination at colleges that have DEI programs? That's not what I gathered from that video. I didn't hear him say he wanted to give reparations to white people, but I think I'm going to discuss that a little bit more tomorrow. It's more about DEI and what happened during the implementation of those DEI programs. It's interesting, though, because when you look at the data, it shows that a lot of those DEI positions actually benefited white women, which is not uncommon when we talk about affirmative action as well. Affirmative action in the workplace primarily benefited white women because once they were able to add gender to that category, that changed things. Shout out to Ahmad. It says, I was at the gym today, Ahmad. I didn't see you. You see me? I don't see you. What's up? Shout out to P. Smith says today is Prince Charles' birthday. King Charles, Joe Noonan's birthday, and Bobby Jimenez's birthday. Guess which one I never dated? Oh boy. Shout out to Kel says his name, Guy Christensen. Greetings, Tim, though. To anyone who voted for that lying evil B, Kamala, how does it feel to know you voted for the overseer of a genocide and she still lost as she should? America's full of sociopath. SMH. Love you, Sabs. Love you too, Tim. Greetings, Angel. I'm not feeling any of Trump's picks like Tulsi, Elon, Vivek, Stefanik, or Little Marco. It's funny people still call him Little Marco because that was the nickname that Trump gave him, and now he's part of Trump's cabinet. But that nickname really stuck. Shout out to Max says the national debt is about to hit 36 trillion. What is your take on debt? Should we be worried or not about it? Thanks. Well, MMT tells us that there is no such thing as a debt ceiling. So I highly recommend you checking out some of the MMT peeps over at Real Progressives. They break this down every week. Highly recommend that you check that out. I brought some of them on the show before as well. Shout out to Lauren says free Palestine. Greetings, Miguel says peace. Shout out to Byron. The ports need to be shut down until all ties are cut with Israel. The world stops until Zionism drops. I hear you, and I agree with you on that one. Greetings, I'm Judah. I can't wait for this one. Shout out to Kaimi, sends eyes. Woo! Greetings, Hannah says roly-poly. And you know what? I don't feel bad coming after Roland Martin because he has been coming after all of us, okay? All of us on social media. It is time. Shout out to Janine, says go Commanders. And hey there, good people. Greetings, Charmaine says Kamala paid Roland good, so why is he so mad? I'll get into it tonight. I'll tell you why he's mad. Shout out to Shalom says free Palestine. Greetings to my comrade JB says good evening, all my beautiful people. Pete P. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and click the notification so you're notified when Sabby is live. Forehead kisses to everybody and leave the world better than you found it. Greetings, Vijaya says, hi, Sabby. I'm not going to tell you what I think your name says sometimes, but I think we can use our imagination. Shout out to Crom says, Sabby, love. Greetings, Kenman says, love, Sabby. Love you too, Kenman. Shout out to New York Varsity says, shooby-dooby-doo, let's go. Shout out to All One Same says, make it a great day, everyone. Peace. If I say it that way, I've been watching Martin is on Netflix. So like we started watching Martin again, like from the beginning, the first season and everything. I love 90s sitcoms. I'm sorry. I grew up with it. It's a thing. Shout out to CBC Voter says, happy Thursday, Sabby Sabs, Eric T. Red and JB. Greetings, Mark says, Sabby. Shout out to Cloudness says, Ayo. So I saw you and JB on Boyce Watkins' channel. You're moving on up. Salute, Sabby and fam. I told you Roly Poly needs to be chin checked. Really, though he's got his mobbing for real. What up, Brian? My, oh my fam, Candace Owens, upon hearing about Elise Stefanik, Little Marco, and Mike Huckabee as cabinet nominees, losing her ish now. Her compassion for the children in Gaza will fill her with regret. Well, I think we knew that that was coming, right? I mean, she's still going to support her party. She's still going to support the Republican nominees, and Donald Trump won. So she's still going to support Donald Trump. you know, and this is being revealed, ladies and gentlemen. It's being revealed the people who were, you know, said they cared so much about the kids in Gaza. They were not happy with the amount of death of the children, which Candace has said. Those who have been criticizing Israel heavily, all of a sudden, now that, you know, Trump's going to be the one in there, all of a sudden, these pro-Israel politicians, it's not a problem anymore for them. So I think we all saw that this was going to come. Greetings, Bill. RFK is head of HHS. Big Pharma is squirming right now. Tarnished soul that he is. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that tomorrow. You'll understand why later on. I'll give you a little bit tip of who's coming on tomorrow. No, it's not him, but you'll find out. Shout out to Brian, says, sorry, Candace, too late to take back your vote for the orange felon. Yeah, man. And it's not just her. It's a bunch of them. Dave Smith. Nick was talking about this earlier today. Dave Smith, Tucker Carlson, all these people that convinced you he was anti-war. All these people that were, I guess Tucker Carlson wasn't as hard on Israel, but you guys know what I'm talking about. The people that were criticizing Israel and said this genocide has to stop. All of a sudden, now that it's going to be Donald Trump, who is closer to their political ideology, all of a sudden, you're not going to probably hear about it now. That's the problem with the two-party. That's another problem with the two-party system. And shout out to Herman, says Sabby sings the hits, just the two of us. We can make it if we try, just the two of us, you and I. That's a pretty cool song, you know. Will Smith remade that song along with many others, or sampled. Actually, I guess kind of sampled that song, and he sampled a lot of other ones. But he's not alone. But I like the original. I like the original version of that song. It's really good. It's soulful. It's very chill. You know, it's a nice Sunday morning song. Yeah. Yeah, it is. Yes, Kami, it's a beautiful song. Yes, it is. All right, guys, let's go ahead and give a shout out to everyone who is a Sabby patron. Thank you guys so much for your support. Really appreciate you, fam. If you're interested in being a Sabby patron, I have 5 categories: Ultimate, Sabinators. There's also Sabsters. Don't forget about those Sabbies, ladies and gentlemen. Again, I told you they are the meat of the sandwich. You got your mustard, got your little bit of your mayo in the house. Shout out. And of course, don't forget about members. Thank you guys so much. Really do appreciate all of you. And I want to give a shout out to new Sabby patrons. Over here, we call them newbies. Let's give it up for Michael R. and Namate. Yeah. Thank you so much. You can see all of their names scrolling across the bottom of the screen on the ticker, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, Cheryl, Bill Withers. That's right. Bill Withers also sings "Ain't No Sunshine When She's Gone." I think that's him too, right? Isn't he the Ain't No Sunshine guy? She's been away. I know. Yeah. Good song. Good song. Shout out to Noober for becoming a Sabby member. Give Noober a big whoop whoop. And thank you, Kieran Pine. Urgent update. Rome's legal fund is live and 744 short, explained at Doja 313, at Charlie Mack, at Lib Left Cons. So we just showed it on RBN, and it looked like they had surpassed that goal, unless I missed something. So maybe I need to check that again. But you guys know, if you're following on Twitter, yeah, Rome is trying to get a lawyer. Again, we just showed the fundraiser on RBN and it looked like they had met that goal. So let me know if I'm incorrect about that, Charlie. And thank you, Brie. Trump is no savior, but his win was a David versus Goliath victory. The man beat all odds. Clearly, God had a hand in it, in my opinion. Interesting. I also think that Kamala was, I said it from day one, Kamala was the underdog. And I think mainstream media wanted people to believe that it was a close race. And I told you guys a while back, remember I said, I was like, I don't believe this race is close like they're saying it is, right? Because from what I was hearing from people on the ground, very different than what they were showing you in corporate media. So, anywho, what are we discussing tonight, ladies and gentlemen? Are we getting jiggy with it? Now you guys got Will Smith songs in my head. Na 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 na. All right. Tonight, ladies and gentlemen, we are discussing Roland Martin attacks Brianna Joy Gray. You can see there's a picture of Roland Martin there. Looks like he's just itching for, let me, you come after Kamala, come after yo. We're also going to discuss, oh my God, this is giving a lot of people a headache. Apparently online, people are losing their cool. Tulsi Gabbard and Matt Gaetz, Trump appointments. Everybody is like pulling their hair out over this one. I think we could have predicted at least one of these, at least Tulsi, right? So I don't know why everybody's freaking out. We're going to get into that. We're going to get into pros and cons about that. We're also going to discuss Oprah Winfrey and Al Sharpton busted. Dun, dun, dun. And what does this have to do with Kamala Harris? We're going to get into that story. Yeah, I see you, Al. I see you looking at me. You ain't slick. You're not slick. And we're also going to discuss AOC's voter shock, and we're going to get into why populism seems to be very big with a lot of voters in this country. And we have a bonus story, ladies and gentlemen, and that is corporate media is struggling. We're going to talk about the slow death of corporate media. Dun, dun, dun. Yes, we'll get into all of those stories tonight, ladies and gentlemen. And of course, we will shout out your comments as well. So I told you guys, the theme of tonight's show is we live in a cartoon right behind me, because we do. You know, there's been so many I told you so's from independent media, and corporate media, of course, didn't want to listen to any of us. You don't see them invite any of us onto corporate media to give them a different perspective, or the perspective that they are purposely omitting from their reporting. And now it appears that after the election, MSNBC and CNN in particular are tanking. I mean, CNN was already having difficulty with ratings, but now post-election, the viewers are not happy with CNN or MSNBC. Let's go ahead and get into this clip here from my comrade Nick from RBN. Peep this.
Liberal corporate media is dying as viewers flee the networks after Donald Trump's dominant election win. We are witnessing MSNBC and CNN go through a massive ratings crater as they lose all credibility with their audience. MSNBC's drop-off is so bad that Comcast is now considering selling it. Bro, MSNBC had half of their audience flee following Donald Trump's election. CNN is faring no better, with hundreds of employees being laid off, Anderson Cooper and Jake Tapper not receiving any raises, and top talent at CNN are now under threat. Imagine having Trump derangement syndrome so bad that you tank an entire network because you guys lose all your credibility. After deceiving their own audience, MSNBC and CNN don't even take accountability over it. They then proceed to blame the far left for Donald Trump winning. Kamala Harris ran with Liz Cheney and George W. Bush Republicans while declaring an era of never-ending war and supporting genocide. Meanwhile, the autopsy done on MSNBC is that Kamala Harris lost because the Democratic Party was too far to the left. Meanwhile, the establishment is wondering why the American people no longer get their news from corporate media outlets like MSNBC and CNN. You can only insult the intelligence of people for so long before you completely lose credibility.
Based hotspot video there from Nick. Make sure you follow Nick and Nico on Twitter. Both of them create those short hotspot videos. But yes, ladies and gentlemen, corporate media is dying post-election. It turns out it's not a good idea to mislead your viewers into making them think that a race is really close, or to making them think that Kamala's doing these great big numbers, which apparently was misleading. All of these rallies that we saw with celebrity after celebrity after celebrity, not even getting their viewers to consider the fact that maybe so many people are showing up because they expect to see a Beyonce concert. Maybe so many people are showing up because they wanted to see the Meg Thee Stallion concert, not so much to see Kamala Harris. Not telling your viewers that audience members started to exit after the celebrity spoke. These things are important, and we told you this on independent media. So let's get started with MSNBC. We're going to start with them first. MSNBC ratings plunge after Trump's election victory as more than half of their primetime audience flees. More than half. Now, you got to remember, in cable news, corporate media, ratings actually matter. Turns out that's important. MSNBC primetime viewership plunged 54% in the days after Donald Trump won the White House as the network's audience tuned away from its left-leaning coverage. That's according to a report. The Comcast-owned cable news channel, which drew a daily average of 1.1 million viewers throughout October, saw its audience shrink to a daily average of 736,000 on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday after Election Day. This is according to the Nielsen media research data. So Nielsen, they're the ones that produce the ratings data. This is important. It does matter. It's a little bit different with those of us on YouTube because we don't have we don't rely on ratings. Whether or not we get a certain number of views, that doesn't limit our ability to be able to create a video. Obviously, that would affect us monetarily, but we're talking about a corporation, right? It's not just MSNBC. There are shareholders that are involved in these companies as well. And if the shareholders feel that they're losing money, they're going to ask you to make some cuts. Okay? Now, that amounted to a 31% drop following Trump's decisive victory, in which he swept the popular vote in all 7 swing states. Meanwhile, Fox News ratings surged a whopping 61% during the same period, according to the Nielsen data. And here's a picture here of Joy Reid. And I just want to say this little tidbit, folks. So what is happening is people are going to the other alternative. What I would prefer people do is to go to independent media, right? Like Fox News, they're biased too. They're also corporate. They have a certain agenda that they lead with as well, just like MSNBC and just like CNN. But I think more people probably hopped over to Fox News because they're like, maybe I should have been watching Fox News because maybe they were telling me the truth about the possibility of Trump winning that popular vote, about the possibility of Trump having that victory that MSNBC and CNN, didn't tell me about. So maybe that could be what is happening. And it would be one thing if Donald Trump won the Electoral College but did not win the popular vote. But the fact that he won the popular vote, that shows that there was something corporate media was purposely, leaving out of their commentary, which is that the majority of voters voted for Donald Trump, which means the majority of the voting dynamic is going in a different direction. The majority of the voters was not happy about this administration. That speaks volumes. In 2016, Hillary Clinton won the popular vote, but she lost the Electoral College, right? So even though Hillary Clinton lost, there wasn't as big of a fallout because the excuse that you could use was, well, she lost the Electoral College, but the majority of voters did vote for her. So the majority of people did want that style of politics, right? That's what they would have you believe. This time around, they couldn't use that. Couldn't use it at all. That's Joy Reid there. Listen to this. It says MSNBC was hit hardest during the primetime hours of 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. Viewership of its primetime shows, including Alex Wagner Tonight, All In with Chris Hayes, and The Last Word with Lawrence O'Donnell, dropped 54% to 808,000. That's after the network averaged 1.8 million viewers in the coveted time slot throughout October. Yeah, misleading people. You can't blame the people for leaving. The losses are sharp our sharp turnaround from Election Day. MSNBC's election night coverage, anchored by Rachel Maddow, averaged 6 million viewers, besting CNN 5.1 million viewers. Fox News came out on top on election night with 10.3 million viewers between 8 p.m. and 11 p.m. Sharon Waxman, a foreign correspondent for the New York Times and founder of Hollywood news site The Wrap, argued that the media needs a total rethink after the election. Like telling people the truth. Telling people the truth. And CNN, no different. No different here from CNN, and you're going to see this as well. Check this one out. CNN, they are facing massive layoffs coming soon. CNN to sack hundreds, including top stars, due to dismal election ratings. See, it's happening all over, folks, right? Because they were lying to people, fam. Lying to people. It says the Daily Mail reported that this comes from following the network's viewership eventually plummeted with only 5.1 million views on the night of the U.S. presidential elections, while severely trailing behind MSNBC and Fox. So we're seeing both of them take hits here. It says CNN CEO Mark Thompson, he took over in August. He is the one that was leading the charge for recent changes, which eventually includes a shift towards prioritizing digital content. CNN noted that various high-profile anchors like Anderson Cooper and Aaron Barnett have uncertain futures, while reports revealed that some senior stars have also been denied raises. So let's take a look at this. Chris Wallace has already departed from CNN News. Chris Wallace used to be a commentator on Fox News. He left Fox News, came to CNN, I think about a year and a half ago, and now he's already out the door. So you can see what's happening here. And it goes on to say there's another part here that I wanted to highlight. Let me go up here for just a second. CNN is reportedly facing significant layoffs as part of a major restructuring effort, which is actually aimed at reviving its struggling reputation following disappointing U.S. presidential election ratings. So, CNN has a reputation problem. It's called lying. CNN is known for having 24-hour news, 24 hours of lies. You're paying all these commentators millions of dollars. We'll get into the pay in just a second. Millions of dollars to read a teleprompter full of lies. And the American people have caught up with it. And you know what? People are leaving it. People are like, I'm done with this. I don't want to see corporate media that much anymore. So this is actually good news for independent media, because this means that more people are looking for other sources of information. And that means that we can get past some of that propaganda. We can't get past all of it because we're not pushed to the top of the algorithm, but we can get past some of it and get people to see what's really happening here, right? It's not just CNN. It's not just MSNBC News. Even The View is looking to make changes. Oh my God. Wait for this one. ABC brass scramble to bring in pro-Trump voices to The View and other shows. Panic mode. It's all happening, folks. It's all starting to crumble. ABC News brass are in panic mode as they hunt for conservative voices to balance the rabid anti-Trump rhetoric spewed by the host on The View, as well as those on other shows. The Disney-owned network, which came under fire over how ABC News moderators grilled Donald Trump during the presidential debate against Vice President Kamala Harris, has been holding high-level meetings since last week's rout by the former president. Sources close to the situation told The Post. ABC News Group President Deborah O'Connell and her recently elevated boss of ABC News, Almond, we're just going to call him Almond because I ain't going to pronounce all that, Karamovic, held intense sit-downs with executive producers of the network, various shows, and other senior editorial leaders suggest. So this is also big news. There are 2 conservative hosts on The View. Most of them are liberal on that show. However, even the conservative hosts, for the most part, seem to be anti-Trump. So it seems like the producer is trying to get someone to be a part of that panel that is pro-Trump to balance things out. I mean, also, too, like, I think that show in particular, I don't get a chance to watch The View like during the morning, but they don't take into consideration that the constant bashing of Donald Trump, the constant bashing of Trump voters and supporters can actually have an effect on their ratings as well. I mean, it's not just all Democrats that are watching that show. And I think this is sometimes what people like Sunny Hostin does not take into consideration. So everything is starting to change, ladies and gentlemen. And it says first on the agenda, according to one insider, is finding a pro-Trump panelist for its top-ranked daytime talk show. And it also goes on to say that The View is facing pressure from higher ups. Viewers can expect some major changes, including bringing in new panelists that can bring in a pro-Trump perspective. Under pressure, do-do-do-do, do-do-do-do-do-do, under pressure, do-do-do-do, do-do-do-do-do-do. I mean, you need different views. I mean, the show is called The View, but you don't have different views. Like, you have the views that you have are the anti-Trump view, right? Even for the most part, even for some of the conservative hosts as well. So you need to have people come on that have different perspectives. On this show, we've had on people with different perspectives. I mean, I've hosted panels where people said they were supporting Trump. People said they were supporting Jill Stein. People said they were supporting Kamala. And people said they were just going to sit on the couch. You need to hear different perspectives. And you can't keep people in this echo chamber, right? And I think what is happening is that some of these news outlets, particularly some of these shows, they're starting to realize that, you know what? We may have to actually not live in an echo chamber. We may have to not live in an echo chamber. So that is happening. Now, I'm telling you all of this, and I'm telling you about these shows, CNN layoffs, MSNBC tanking in ratings, CNN tanking in ratings after a post-election. And I'm telling you about The View also trying to make some changes. This is a ratings issue. And then some of you are probably wondering, well, if this is the way that things have been going, how much are they paying these hosts? Let's see. Let's look at MSNBC first. Hold on to your seat. The top highest paid MSNBC anchors. Hold on to this. Here we go. I don't want anyone to fall out of their seat. Rachel Maddow, first up, right? Remember, the ratings are tanking. Rachel Maddow is paid $30 million a year. $30 million a year to lie and lie. Remember, Rachel Maddow, this was the Russiagator. Does everyone remember this? She was the one who was like, it was Russia, it was Russia, it was Russia, right? Never came back and apologized for the Russia lies, never came back and said those things. She's paid $30 million a year and her net worth is $35 million to sit there and read a teleprompter of lies. There's more. It's not just her. Not just the Rach. Jonathan Capehart. He's fairly newer. We'll go a little bit easier on him. He's newer, but he's paid $92,000 to $1 million per year. Okay. Still not 30 million like Rachel Maddow. Estimated net worth, 3 million. 3 million. There's more. Oh, we're going on. So this is Kristen Welker. So she's the one that hosts Meet the Press. Her salary is $100,000 per year. So even she's not making anywhere near, Rachel Maddow, but she is also newer too. Her net worth is $3 million. $3 million. Let's continue. She's not as cringe as Rachel. Lawrence O'Donnell, right? The guy who continues to tell you like the Democratic Party isn't going to change. Remember this guy who made that video? He's like, you can't vote for them because they're never going to change. I worked with them. Remember he said that? Let's see how much Lawrence O'Donnell makes. $4 to $7 million per year. He has a net worth of $16 million. Now, those are just a few from MSNBC. Do you think, given what I just told you, do you think they are in spaces with working class people? Do you think they really know what working class people want, what they need? Some of these people have like penthouse apartments in Manhattan. Someone was asking in the chat, why is Rachel paid so much more? I think at one point she had the highest rated show on MSNBC. I think that's why. But yeah, there is a very big difference there in the pay. I'm surprised they haven't brought this up, or maybe they have brought this up at some point. Alex Witt, $1 to $2 million per year. Estimated net worth, $4 million. We're not going to go through all of them, but I just want to show you a few. Brian Williams, the guy who lied and said he was at war. Remember this guy? He lied and said that he was at war. Then he had to come back on air and publicly apologize. This guy was still able to keep a job, still able to tell the news after he lied. Okay. So Brian Williams makes $6 to $10 million per year. His estimated net worth is $50 million. These people have been lying to you for years, and they're paid millions to lie to you. So I don't, this is why I don't feel bad about the layoffs and all this kind of stuff. These people have gotten comfortable. And there's more. We'll go to CNN salaries. Jake Tapper, Wolf Blitzer. Let's see how much they're making. Now, they've been denied raises because of the ratings, right? Like that was told October 17th, but I want you to see how much they're making. So we'll just go down here for a little bit. I'll make it a little bit bigger, actually. Okay, there we go. So check this out. Who are we starting with? Jake Tapper. Thompson recently re-signed Jake Tapper. It says to a new 3-year contract that will pay him the same $7 million annually. $7 million. So Jake Tapper, who has been lying about Israel and Gaza, Jake Tapper is paid $7 million a year. None of these people are working class. None of these people, I wouldn't even call them middle class. These people are wealthy. They live in a world that we don't even know of. Okay, no. What are the chances that you are going to be in the same space with these people? Think about that. That's Jake Tapper. Wolf Blitzer is up here too. Wolf Blitzer, 67-year-old longtime CNN veteran. It said that his 3-year contract is frozen at his pay roughly at $3 million annually. So he makes $3 million a year. So long story short, these people are paid. Paid. We are not on the same page as them. Or should I say they're not on the same page as us. And then there's the big one. And that's Anderson Cooper. Anderson Cooper, who first and foremost comes from a wealthy family. He's a Vanderbilt. I don't think Anderson Cooper probably really had to work hard for anything in his life. I mean, when you come from a family and your family's the Vanderbilts, I'm pretty sure you probably didn't have to work hard to get what you wanted, right? Just because Anderson Cooper sits at an anchor desk on CNN News doesn't mean he was the best reporter or the best journalist. Having a name like Vanderbilt or coming from that family opens certain doors for you that other people don't get. So let's think about that first. And then I'm going to show you how much he makes. So Anderson Cooper who has been lying for years. Let's go down here. Let's get to the Sal. Anderson Cooper's net worth is $50 million. $50 million. And it says here, that's according to Celebrity Net Worth, but according to other outlets such as USA Today, it's actually more like $200 million. Anderson Cooper. Crazy, crazy stuff. How much money does Anderson Cooper make? Anderson Cooper makes a cool $20 million at CNN. Why are they paid so much, ladies and gentlemen? Why are these commentators who read from a teleprompter, who lie to you, who feed you propaganda every day, why are they paid millions and millions of dollars? These people, let me be clear, 9 times out of 10, a lot of these people are probably not taking the subway. Don't be surprised if they have a driver, someone that drops them off to work. They get their hair and their makeup done, and they're paid millions to sit there and read a teleprompter to tell you lies. So I don't feel bad that corporate media is hitting a slump. CNN and MSNBC News, they have been standing in front of a bus that has been driving probably about 5 miles an hour. And they knew that bus was coming to hit them eventually. But they never got out of the way of the bus. And now the bus has hit. Don't feel sorry for these anchors. They can easily go get jobs elsewhere. So keep that in mind. Anderson Cooper comes from a rich family. He'll be fine regardless. He can probably just quit today and be totally fine. But this is ridiculous, what they were paying them. Absolutely ridiculous. And I wonder how much the production staff makes, by the way. Usually they make less. It's a new day, guys. It's a new day, and I'm here for it. Let corporate media fall. Let's get to some of the comments here in the Chizad. What's up? Thank you for the super chat, Kaimi. Gifted in the name of the Free Palestine crew. Palestine, hurrah. Thank you, Kaimi. Thank you, New York Varsity. Notice Roland mostly attacks women. Ooh, remember the last time he trolled a man, got called out in person and froze like a mannequin? Yeah, he approached, that was Jamal Green that he was calling out on Twitter, and then Jamal Green approached him in person. That was interesting. Hotspot Casino. AOC had the nerve to ask us what podcast are we watching. None of your business, ma'am. It's true. We'll get to that story. Thank you, Sammy. Love from Denmark. Keep up the good work, sweetie. Thank you. Thanks, trust and success. Where's Jamal Green when you need him? Hashtag scary Roland. Thanks, JB. Sabs, I find it funny how corporate media is shrinking, but we and independent media keep growing. People are waking up. Support indie media, folks. Yeah, this is true. Like, people are just looking for other alternatives. Thank you, Lawn Guy. Okay, Pacman/Cedar claim of lost subs possible. These channels get artificially boosted by the DNC by paying for subs to game the algorithm. Would end after election. That's a good point. I didn't think about that. I mean, but you can't do that on YouTube though. Like, you can't pay for like subs on YouTube. So if that were the case, I'm surprised their channel still exists. Thank you, Kieran. Rome Legal First GFM now need 6,500 second urgent. Okay, I don't know about that. I didn't know about that. I have to look into that first. This is the first I'm hearing of that. But thank you for letting me know. Thank you, Wendy. Would you be able to put up a link for Rome's bail? So yeah, again, I don't know what, JB, if you're still watching, can you DM me that on Twitter? Because like I said, we showed this earlier today on RBN. So I didn't know there was another one, but we shared the link and it was already passed. They had already seeded the amount. So if there's another one, I don't know about that. So if JB, if you see that, let me know. Thank you, Louise. Holy cow. Is Candace Owens going to wind up on The View? That would be interesting. They may not let her do that. Because remember, she's been accused of being anti-Semitic, so they may not let her do that. Thank you, Jenna. CNN are really financially illiterate. I would have lied twice as much for half that pay, and I could have emptied the garbage on Fridays to boot. Thank you, VSSE. They are called The View because they only have one corporate view. Good point there. And thank you for this one as well. I think you sent that twice. I don't know if you meant to do that. Sorry. And thank you, Wendy. Mainstream news anchors get paid millions to be mouthpieces for the State Department. There you go. Thanks, Susanna. Could CNN and MSNBC actually go off air? Are we talking that kind of damage? I think there's probably going to be a couple of layoffs first, like CNN said, a couple hundred. So there's going to be layoffs first before anything. And then if that still doesn't work, then eventually, unless they can come up with some money somewhere else. I mean, the reality is if people aren't watching you, then, Thank you, Truth. Anderson Cooper is a Vanderbilt. This is true. Thanks, Lawn Guy. For a laugh, Google Wolf Blitzer Jeopardy, negative $4,600. Thank you, Measured Man. Thank you, Independent Media. No way people would have been able to understand how much we were lied to. We love you. Found you during the Maui issue. Oh, yeah, that was another one they were lying about. Thank you, Thad. 20 million is crazy. It's insane. Most Americans will never see $20 million in their lifetime. That's an insane amount of money. How much do you have to make a month? Someone in the chat can do the math for me. How much money do you have to make per month to make $20 million a year? Aye. And thank you, Lawn Guy. Couldn't they pay a marketing firm to use bot subs? I guess they could. But again, like I said, that is definitely against the rules unless they were given a pass. I don't know. That's crazy, though. Let's get the comment on Rumble, Eric. Thanks. Hey. Thank you, Penny, for the Rumble rant. 3-part reenactment of the historic Uhuru 3 anti-colonial free speech trial of the century. That is November 21st and December 5th and December 12th. TheBurningspear.com. Thank you so much for sharing that, Penny. Uhuru 3 Theater. Thank you. Thank you. Did someone figure it out? I see a couple of different numbers. Mouse says it's 1/3 million per month, and Click says 1.7 million per month. Yeah. That's a lot. That's ridiculous. Be Easy said 20 million annually is 1.66. Okay, monthly. Jesus Christ. That's insane. Yikes. All right, guys, if you're just joining, smash that like button. Thank you. If you're new, don't forget to like, sub, and share. Thank you. I'm in a silly mood tonight because I told you we're living in a cartoon. And here comes the second cartoon story. Here we go. So Donald Trump has been announcing his appointments for his cabinet. And we've already covered a couple of these, right? We covered Marco Rubio, Elise Stefanik, etc. Now, there were 2 announcements that were made that honestly has politicians like Elizabeth Warren and some others wanting to pull their hair out. And we're going to start with Matt Gaetz first. Let's start with Matt. So this was the announcement that was made. Donald Trump taps loyalist Matt Gaetz as Attorney General and Tulsi Gabbard for National Intelligence Chief. This was the shock that was heard around the world, ladies and gentlemen. That's right. And a lot of people are freaking out online. They're like, what in the hell? So it says here, in selecting the congressman, Trump passed over some of the more established attorneys whose names had been mentioned as being contenders for the job. So one of the big, pushback that Trump is receiving about Matt Gaetz is that his experience level, right? So many people, they're saying he's not as experienced as an attorney as other people that were being considered for that position. We'll get into some of the other things as well. And we're also going to break down how Lee Fang, he wrote an article making the case for Matt Gaetz on the left. And I think you'll find that really interesting. For what it's worth, and I have to say this because people make assumptions, for what it's worth, I'm not a fan of Matt Gaetz or Tulsi Gabbard. I agree with them on some things, but it's not like we not here. Okay. Like we not here. I'm definitely not too, obviously keen on Tulsi Gabbard's pro-Israel stance. Some of the Islamophobia that has come from Tulsi Gabbard as well. Not keen on that. I agree with her with ending the Ukraine war, right? I agree with her on free speech, even though she kind of goes against free speech when it comes to Israel. It's all over the place. Now with Tulsi Gabbard in particular, it almost kind of feels like karma. Because Tulsi Gabbard, it was just 3 months ago where Tulsi Gabbard was discussing how apparently she was put on a no-fly zone list by the Biden-Harris administration. So is it karma or is it drama? Let's get into this.
Currently in our armed forces.
The closest word that I could think of that can begin to describe what I felt and what I feel in learning that actually, according to these whistleblowers, that I am on this Quiet Skies list, that my own government, my president, my commander in chief is targeting me as a potential domestic terrorist. The closest word that comes to mind is a complete sense of betrayal. And it's betrayal because I, like so many Americans, enlisted because of the Islamist terrorist attacks on 9/11. Enlisted to serve in our country's military, to ensure the safety, security, and freedom of the American people, to go after and defeat and destroy those Islamist terrorists who continue to pose the greatest short and long-term threat to us, to our security, and to our freedom. And so now, after serving over 21 years and continuing to serve in our nation's military, my own government has labeled and is targeting me directly now as a domestic terrorist, as they are many others. I'm not alone in this. Of course, this list is not being made public, but we can look to what the Biden-Harris administration has done in multiple cases of how they have there have been leaked conversations, leaked files, leaked documents, and even statements they've made in public saying that this threat of domestic terrorism and extremism is so great, and often very likely it is those in the military or military veterans who are these potential threats here at home. It is more than a slap in the face. It's more than a punch in the gut. It is a complete betrayal coming from our own government that they are using our taxpayer dollars, our resources. They're using people like the air marshals as weapons and pawns to target their political opponents. And that's really what this is all about.
So this was very strange. The fact that Tulsi Gabbard is a soldier. I mean, she's a part of the U.S. military. So there's that. And she's still, from what I understand, still active duty. She's very pro-Israel. She has spoken out against, like I said before, Muslim communities, and in not good ways. So it was kind of weird that she was put on a no-fly list. It was weird because usually people that are put on those lists, they see you as a threat to, I guess, like national security, those types of things. But that was not the case, apparently, for her. Usually you wouldn't target someone who's active duty military. And like I said, again, she's very pro-Israel. But nevertheless, Donald Trump chose her to be the director of national intelligence. So it's almost like this is some sort of karma for Tulsi. it's karma come back around, because it's like the Biden-Harris administration, they put her on the no-fly list, and now she gets this appointment of the director of national intelligence. Now, I don't know how you guys feel about that. I don't know how you feel about her being in that position, but I guess we all kind of figured she would be appointed to some type of position in Trump's cabinet because, you know, she decided she left the Democratic Party, she became an independent, and then she decided to join the Republican Party, and she decided to campaign with Donald Trump towards the end there. So it was pretty much imaginable that she was going to get some type of position. I think some of us thought that was going to be Secretary of State, but he chose little Marco. So there's that. She happily has accepted this position. In fact, she was on Fox News to discuss that. I want to get into this video here.
What an exciting time to be alive. Here now, newly nominated Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard. Well, first of all, congratulations, Tulsi. We're all very proud of you. Take us into the room or the airplane when this was offered to you. How did it go down?
We had a great conversation and talked a little bit about the work that needs to be done. And I was grateful and honored to accept President Trump's offer to serve our country and support his objective to defend the safety, security, and freedom of the American people as the Director of National Intelligence.
How do you think foreign capitals are taking your nomination and the nomination of other people in the national security apparatus?
It's a good question. I think President Trump has already shown how active he has been in not waiting around for day one on January 20th or 21st, but he's already leading. He's already engaging with so many of these world leaders around the world on the phone constantly. And he's showing the kind of leadership that the American people voted for.
Do you expect resistance from the inside? Because there was a lot of resistance in the first term. And how would you deal with that?
The American people delivered quite an incredible mandate for change in this election, with the popular vote and the electoral vote overwhelmingly saying, hey, we want Donald Trump as president, and we've had enough of the Harris-Biden regime. Of course, there's going to be resistance to change from the swamp in Washington. I think that's kind of the point. The American people are saying, hey, stop looking at yourselves, stop focusing on your own power, your own position, your own bank accounts. How about we have leaders in Washington who are actually looking out for the American people? And on every issue across the board, that's really what it comes down to with what President Trump is trying to accomplish is we have to make sure that our government puts the interests of the American people first.
Okay, so to that point, that would mean Israel as well. Like, we need to stop putting Israel first. Stop giving Israel billions of dollars every year. You know, even before October 7th, we were giving all this money to Israel. So we're not putting America first when we're giving money to Israel. We're not putting America first when we're making sure that Netanyahu gets whatever he wants and whatever he needs, right? So it's not just about Zelensky walking into Congress and walking out with a blank check. It's also about Netanyahu walking into Congress and walking out with a blank check as well. Here's the thing about Tulsi that I have to mention as well. Tulsi Gabbard, you have to remember, she was in the Democratic Party. She was a congresswoman for her state of Hawaii. And at that point in time, she was considered to be the next big thing. So like the Hillary Clinton, crew, they really were promoting and propping up Tulsi Gabbard at that point in time. Things changed when Tulsi Gabbard decided to endorse Bernie Sanders in 2016 instead of Hillary Clinton. After that, the Democrat leadership was done with Tulsi Gabbard. She still went on in 2020 to run for president as a Democrat presidential candidate. So she was still part of the Democratic Party at that point. And at that point in time, there were some people that supported Bernie in 2016 that did move over to support Tulsi because she was talking more about ending the wars. She agreed with Medicare for All, but I think her version of Medicare for All was different than the bill that Bernie Sanders was putting forward, right? So she still agreed with some of those progressive policies, but some people found her campaign more interesting because she was calling out more about the wars, etc. But of course, you remember her probably the most from taking out Kamala Harris on the debate stage, right? So that's what a lot of people remember her from. Obviously, she did not make it further in the Dem primary. And then for a while, you didn't hear from her until it was between Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden. And this time around, instead of endorsing Bernie Sanders, Tulsi Gabbard endorsed Joe Biden. And I didn't know if at that time, maybe that was her way of trying to get back in the good graces of the Democratic Party, or if it was her trying to say, no, we have to stop Donald Trump. I'm not sure if Tulsi ever really explained the reasoning for that. But I would say it was probably her way of trying to get back in the good graces of the Democratic Party, but it didn't work, right? And she became frustrated with the Democratic Party. She started to make more appearances on Fox News. I think she was like a guest correspondent at one point. The next thing I know, she announces that she's leaving the Democratic Party, and she discussed this on Joe Rogan. She gave several reasons for this. And then not too long ago, she decided to join the Republican Party. So I always kind of saw Tulsi Gabbard as an opportunist. I felt like she went with what worked with her at that point in time. And that's kind of like how she moved. And so she was able to get something out of this opportunity, right? Because she went along with Trump. She joined his campaign. And now she has a position, which is the position of the Director of National Intelligence. We'll go on a little bit more here.
How did you think the Biden meeting went today?
It was interesting to see that Biden didn't seem to be able to stop smiling. for them to have sat there for what she said a couple hours and good. I'm glad that they sat there. They had a seemingly good conversation. President Trump, I'm sure, is eager to get to work and glad to be back there.
What do you think Kamala's thinking right now?
I can't even begin to venture how she's feeling right now. The amazing thing is what I hope the American people are feeling is a sense of hope. And frankly, Jesse, I've been heartened to see how engaged people continue to be, even though the election is over, that they're really looking forward to making sure that their voices are continued to be heard as we go through these next couple of months, as President Trump takes office, as he begins to lead this significant change in our government. To me, this is what an active and thriving democratic republic looks like. It's not just centered around an election every 2 years or every 4 years. It's going to continue to require an active populace in this country in order to bring about this kind of change that makes sure we have truly a government of, by, and for the people.
And I want to show you something here, guys, right? So I want you to take a look at this picture, right? This picture here of Joe Biden and Donald Trump. Notice how he's smiling. Joe Biden's smiling, doesn't seem to be that frustrated. People were making jokes on Twitter and they were saying, I wonder if Biden voted for Trump. But it just goes to show you at the end of the day, it is one big club, right? So Donald Trump and Joe Biden, at the end of the day, they can go to the same country club. Yes, there's the partisan, one's Democrat, one's Republican, but at the end of the day, they can go to the same country club. Now, I thought that according to the media and according to Joe Biden, didn't he say that the Trump supporters were garbage? People were saying that Donald Trump was Hitler and he was a threat to democracy. Does Joe Biden in this picture look like he's sitting next to a threat to democracy to you? No, this is just all a part of the partisan game. So we have to pay attention to those types of things. Now, again, Matt Gaetz. Now we move on to him. He was appointed the position of Attorney General, and people really, if you thought people lost it over Tulsi, people really lost it over Matt Gaetz. And court, of course, excuse me, can't talk tonight. It's blah, 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 blah. Of course, this clip here from MSNBC News shows just that, how people are freaking out. They said, oh, hell to the no, not that guy.
So Andrew Weissman, this to me, while shocking and galling, is the least surprising thing Trump has done since he won. I think since he won Tuesday night, yesterday he put Marco Rubio atop the State Department, and people at this table said, oh, this isn't going to be so bad. On Monday, he made the announcement that he would turn to recess appointments. It's obvious that this trio of Fox News anchors, Matt Gaetz, whose biggest war in Washington is with Kevin McCarthy, and Tulsi Gabbard, was what the recess appointment was all about.
Yeah, I sort of had two reactions to this announcement, and one is very similar to yours, which is we have in the president-elect somebody who is clearly not tethered to facts or law. With respect to facts, we know he has said repeatedly that there was a fraud in the election and he won it, and we know that is not true, and he lost all of the cases but one, and that one was on some technical issue. So he is adhering to a world where facts and law don't matter, and so we shouldn't be surprised that he has selected to nominate, yet to be confirmed, somebody for the Attorney General and somebody for the Department of National Intelligence that are not just unqualified, but have shown that they're untethered to the facts and maybe also the law. So that shouldn't be surprising. And the other is really this idea of that somehow Matt Gaetz is going to be the person who prevents and stops weaponization when he is the exhibit A to weaponization. I mean, we are in pure George Orwell 1984 land where, they say black is white and we're supposed to believe it.
That guy, to me, what's funny about that is that guy sounds like he has something stuck in his nose. Like, when I was listening to that video earlier, I was like, is there something in your nose? Like, why are you talking like that? But Matt Gaetz, right? So the biggest complaint you're going to hear from people is that he is not qualified for that position. They don't feel that he has enough experience. And then there's also the issue with the 17-year-old girl. Now, Matt Gaetz has talked about this before. Apparently, if I remember correctly, to his statement, I believe he said that he didn't, or she lied about her age or something like that. I don't know, but that's one of the things that, again, it's being brought up because he has been appointed to that position. You're going to hear that here. Listen to this.
You got to think about this guy. This is a guy that the media didn't give a time of day to after he was accused of sleeping with an underage girl. And there's a reason why no one in the conference came and defended him, because we had all seen the videos he was showing on the House floor that all of us had walked away of the girls that he had slept with. He'd brag about how he would crush ED medicine and chase it with an energy drink so he could go all night. This is obviously before you got married. And so when that accusation came out, no one defended him, and then no one on the media would give him a time of the day. All of a sudden he found fame because he opposed the Speaker of the House back in November. And he's always stayed there, and he was never going to leave until he got this last moment of fame by going after a motion to vacate.
So apparently, I guess he can't be Attorney General because he was trying to have sex all night long. I don't know.
It's important to know Congressman Gaetz has never been charged with any sex trafficking crime, and he gave this statement to CNN in response. I don't think Mark Wayne Mullen and I have said 20 words to each other on the House floor. This is a lie from someone who doesn't know me and who's coping with the death of the political career of his friend Kevin. Thoughts and prayers. I'm joined now by Republican.
Thoughts and prayers. Oh my God. That was interesting. Now, Tara Reid has a different position about this because Matt Gaetz was very helpful to her and her situation. She said, for anyone being critical of Matt Gaetz being selected, you are wrong. He's an excellent choice. He cares about people, and I know this firsthand. He will be amazing in the position of Attorney General, and if it wasn't for him, I would not be safe. Congressman Gaetz and Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, listen to me, when I was being targeted by the Biden DOJ. Maybe now truth and justice can prevail for all Americans. So remember, Matt Gaetz was the one that warned Tara Reid not to return back to the U.S. because she would probably be detained. This is during the time when she was visiting Russia to promote her book. So he has been very helpful to her. Matt Gaetz also has been very vocal about censorship. Remember, he was one of the most vocal congressmen that was a part of the weaponization hearing that I've shown before on this show. And you're going to hear a different perspective about this. Again, now, Matt Gaetz is not someone that I agree with on most things, right? But Lee Fang wrote an article titled "Why the Left should welcome Matt Gaetz. And there are a couple issues where I think the left would side with Matt Gaetz on. Again, other than that, I don't agree with him on much. So just make that very clear. But certain things, and I want to bring this up here, and shout out to Lee Fang for writing this, looking at a different perspective. The left should welcome Matt Gaetz as Attorney General. Let's listen to this. Can I make it a little bit bigger? Okay. Oh, I guess that's just how this website is. Okay, there we go. Gaetz may be known as a bombastic MAGA supporter in the eyes of the media. He live streams, he podcasts, he trades barbs with political enemies with acidic bluster. But for those who have closely followed his legislative career, the Florida lawmaker represents a sharp break from the corporate-friendly orthodoxy of the modern Republican Party. Indeed, Gaetz' elevation will provide sprawling prosecutorial powers for continuing to push against special interest influence and corporate malfeasance. His record speaks for itself. From his perch on the House Judiciary Committee, Gaetz has promoted a surprisingly consumer-friendly agenda, routinely breaking with his GOP colleagues on crucial votes. Let's talk about one of those. Remember, he was one of the congressmen that refused to vote for Kevin McCarthy. Does everybody remember this? Remember how some of them decided to force the vote, what we wanted the squad to do? So remember, Matt Gaetz was a big part of that group that was like, no, we're not going to vote for you, Kevin McCarthy, unless we get some concessions out of our vote. Everyone remember that? So that's an example of him breaking away from the majority of the party. It goes on to say here that he supported measures to break up Silicon Valley monopolies, sharply regulate the online data broker industry, ban non-compete employment contracts, and an end to the practice of forced arbitration, among other corporate accountability votes. He also has taken maverick positions on reducing FBI surveillance powers, cutting certain arms supplies to Saudi Arabia, and legalizing marijuana. So here's the thing. I can agree with him on those things. You know, I'm not pro FBI for the same reason I'm not pro cop. Okay. So I can agree with him on that. I agree with him on legalizing marijuana. I agree with him on the corporate regulations. I agree with him on banning non-compete in employment contracts. So I agree with him on some of these things. Let's get into the rest of it here, where it says, in addition, Gaetz has staked a position at times to the left of some establishment Democrats in the fight over ending Platform Monopolies Act, a bill designed to curb anti-competitive practices by Amazon and Google. Gaetz ended up supporting the legislation while California Democrats close to the tech industry, such as Zoe Lofgren and Eric Swalwell, voted against it. So this might be one of those ones that people weren't really aware of. In an era of severe political polarization, the Florida representative has found opportunities to support actions of the Biden administration. In August, Gaetz wrote a letter to Alphabet chief executive Sundar Pichai, urging him to adhere fully to the antitrust ruling against the company secured by the current Department of Justice. He has called on Trump to continue a corporate law enforcement pattern started by the Biden administration. I would hope that whoever is the next FTC chair would continue many of the cases that Chair Khan has brought against the predatory business. Now, Chair Khan is the one that Kamala Harris was considering removing. I don't know if everybody remembers this, but Kamala Harris, if she were to win, Chair Khan was one of the ones that she was going to replace. Now, Chair Khan has actually done some good things. I've talked about it before on this show. So I agree with Matt Gaetz on those things. There's another thing about Matt Gaetz, which has also been brought to my attention, is that apparently he is not receiving AIPAC money. That would be different from Rubio and Elise Stefanik and Donald Trump as well. He is still pro-Israel, though. I'll tell you that one. He's against the war in Ukraine. He is still pro-Israel. So just keep that in mind. But he doesn't seem to be as staunchly about it as some others. And then there's another one that I want to bring up. Again, we're talking about how he voted. Matt Gaetz blasts House anti-Semitism legislation as a ridiculous hate speech bill. How many of you guys remember this? Remember they were trying to pass that bill in the House about the anti-Semitism bill? It said here that Matt Gaetz rallied against the House anti-Semitism legislation on Wednesday. Goes on to say the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act aims to crack down on anti-Semitism on college campuses and would expand the legal definition of anti-Semitism used to enforce anti-discrimination laws. This is one of the bills that I was warning people about because, like I said, they were basically trying to equate anti-Zionism with anti-Semitism, and that can be very dangerous if they were to go down that road. Chuck Schumer supported that. I think he was one of the ones that co-sponsored it, if I remember correctly, but Matt Gaetz was against it. Now, he's against it for different reasons than why I'm against it, right? So his reason for being against it, he said here, when it said it passed in the House, but it didn't in the Senate, he said, Gaetz came out against its passage, saying on social media that some excerpts of the Bible would meet the bill's definition of anti-Semitism. So that's important to point out. And that was something that I think Candace Owens might have mentioned as well. Like, well, what about the Bible? Right. So it's irky like territory, right? And that can apply to so many different things. But he was against that. He was against that legislation. So there have been a couple of things that he was against that I do agree with. And I think that's why Lee Fang wrote that article and said, hey, you might agree with him on some of these issues. Do I agree with him about a bunch of other things? No, no, I don't. So it could be, part of it could be the fact of the way that he's voted on legislation, the fact that they feel like he doesn't have a lot of experience. And then part of it could be because of this, him confronting Merrick Garland, the current Attorney General.
No, wait, hold on, Mr. Attorney General. Did you ever have a family member profit off of the notoriety of any case that you sat over?
Say again, you're asking
yes or no?
You're asking me to comment on a case currently.
Well, it seems you're connecting the dots,
court.
Mr. Attorney General. I'm just asking you as to a general principle, but you are aware that Judge Merchan's daughter was profiting off of this prosecution. You are aware that that creates the appearance of impropriety. You know the very reason there's a federal rule against judges giving donations is because it is the very attack on the judicial process that we're concerned about.
I'm recognized for 5 minutes.
Attorney General, you've told us that it's a dangerous conspiracy theory to allege that the Department of Justice is communicating with these state and local prosecutions against Trump. You can clear it all up for us right now. Will the Department of Justice provide to the committee all documents, all correspondence between the department and Alvin Bragg's office and Fonnie Willis' office and Letitia James's office?
The offices you're referring to are independent offices of state.
I get that. The question is whether or not you will provide all of your documents and correspondence. That's the question. I don't need a history lesson.
Well, I'm going to say again, we do not control those offices. They make their own decisions.
The question is whether you communicate with them, not whether you control them. Do you communicate with them, and will you provide those communications?
You make a request. We'll refer it to our Office of Legislative Affairs.
But see, here's the thing. You come in here and you lodge this attack that it's a conspiracy theory, that there is coordinated lawfare against Trump. And then when we say, fine, just give us the documents, give us the correspondence, and then if it's a conspiracy theory, that will be evident. But when you say, well, we'll take your request, and then we'll sort of work it through the DOJ's accommodation process, then you're actually advancing the very dangerous conspiracy theory that you're concerned about. Now, you were a judge, once nominated the highest court in our country. When you were a judge, I'm just curious, did you ever make political donations to partisan candidates?
Uh-oh.
No, and you didn't, because that would create the potential appearance of impropriety.
I didn't, because there's a federal rule barring federal judges from making contributions.
Right, but under that same theory of attacks on the judicial process, like, shouldn't someone be owed like a jury of their peers and a judge that's non-biased rather than getting a judge from your political opponent's donor file?
I'm well aware that you're not asking a hypothetical. You're asking me to comment on a jury verdict in another jurisdiction which has to be respected. I won't comment on it. That case is still ongoing. The defendant
Mr. Attorney General, I hadn't asked you about the verdict yet. We were getting there. I was talking about the judge. And so let me ask you this question about your time.
Isn't this interesting that you have the current Attorney General, Merrick Garland, and at this point in time, Matt Gaetz just resigned, by the way. He just resigned from Congress because he's going to accept this Attorney General position with Donald Trump's cabinet here. But isn't it interesting that he was confronting the current Attorney General and now he might be Attorney General? And I say might because these positions still have to be voted on. So if there's one that may not make it, and here's the other thing, we need to talk about this. If there's one that may not make it, it would be Matt Gaetz' position, probably. I think he would be the one. He seems to be the one that people are trying to push out. And if that's the case, since he already resigned from Congress, you know where that would really leave him. But yeah, they still get to vote on these positions. And it seems like the Matt Gaetz choice seems to be the one that is receiving the most pushback. So just FYI, folks.
As a judge, was there ever a time when you were a judge when you had a family member who was personally profiting off of the notoriety of a case that was before your court?
I'm going to say again, very clear, you're asking me to comment on a case in another jurisdiction.
No, wait, hold on, Mr. Attorney General. Did you ever have a family member profit off of the notoriety of any case that you sat over?
Say again, you're asking
yes or no?
You're asking me to comment on a case currently.
Well, it seems you're connecting the dots, Mr. Attorney General. I'm just asking you as to a general principle, but you are aware that Judge Merchan's daughter was profiting off of this prosecution. You are aware that that creates the appearance of impropriety. You know the very reason there's a federal rule against judges giving donations is because it is the very attack on the judicial process that we're concerned about.
And we'll go ahead and stop it there. You can watch that again another time. But yeah, Matt Gaetz as Attorney General. Look, Matt Gaetz loves theater. He likes to put on a good show. That's for sure. We'll have to wait and see if this one gets through. I have a feeling if there's one that won't get through, it'll probably be this one. Also, the position that was given to the Fox News host, that one probably may have difficulty getting through as well. But we'll have to wait and see what happens. That being said, folks, it's very clear that Trump is trying to shake things up a little bit because he's adding people to his cabinet that don't necessarily have everything in common. Like Matt Gaetz can be a little bit more of a wild card. Tulsi Gabbard has her own kind of thing going on. And then you have crazy ass Karen, Elise Stefanik, who's like a rabid Zionist. Then you have Marco Rubio, the neocon. So some people got excited about the Tulsi Gabbard and the Matt Gaetz picks, but don't let that distract you from Marco Rubio, the neocon, being given that Secretary of State position. He would be the new Blinken. Let's go to some of the comments here in the chat. And Eric, we can go ahead and go to part 2 of Type B and C. Thank you. What is up, Ramel Murdoch? Thank you. I will sleep well when Air America Rachel Maddow 30 milli is taken out to pasture. Fellow citizen said, yes, Tulsi was very cautious in her wording, re apartheid previously. I assume that she had to take a public position to maintain good graces with Trump and that he likewise does get Adelson money. Good point, fellow citizen. Thank you, Marvin. 100 million Trump consulted Miriam Adelson. Bet you. Thank you, New York Varsity. When you call Hillary a warmonger and knock Harris the F out, of course, the intellectually lazy route to go is Russian asset. Thank you, Echo Pup. Never trusted Tulsi. She's an opportunist. Thank you, GDNPB. These rich women are freaking because they are all on a hip trip and the slap in the face that most do not find them hip at all. I mean, who the funk thinks they are so important they have to head to X? It's interesting. Thank you, New York Varsity. When you run under the DNC ticket, you have to sign a clause endorsing the DNC winner. I called BS, but she slipped up and said it on Rogan. Thank you, Jasmine, for the super sticker. Whoop, whoop. Samantha says that Matt Gaetz looks like Jimmy Neutron. He kind of reminds me of Jack Nicholson a little bit. So he kind of reminds me of. Thank you, Charlie. Thank you for this. First GoFundMe was for $6,500, raised $1,200, closed it to edit. Second GoFundMe was for the remainder of $5,300. Goal was exceeded. But the first GoFundMe is refunding people, not paying out. Now only short 744 of the 6,500 total. Okay, I get it. Thank you, Charlie. That makes sense now. Thanks, Chris. Hi, Sabby. Gaetz has a point when it comes to single issue bills. That's another one I forgot. The single issue bills, enforcing the vote, which is what AOC ran on years back. Skepticism is high. Yeah, we'll have to wait to see if any of these things actually happen too. And thank you for the super sticker, Trash Panda. Trash pandas are so cute, but don't try to play with those guys, okay? I saw a woman on YouTube. She tried to play with a raccoon. Don't do that. Don't do that. Let's go to the Rumble rant. Thank you, Laugh66, for the Rumble rant. Russia sees Ukraine many decades ahead. U.S. leadership thinks in terms of election cycles / news cycles. The Middle East, same. Iran, China, Russia have 1,000 years of history. The U.S. is a child. Yeah, we're young, right? We're so young compared to European countries. Something to think about. I see people talking about the trash pandas in the chat. All right, guys, smash that like button if you haven't had a chance to do so. If you're new, don't forget to like, sub, and share. We live in a cartoon, and I'll tell you why. This story here about Al Sharpton, Oprah Winfrey, and the Kamala Harris connection just says a lot of things. Now, I need someone to explain a couple of things to me before we get into this video. First of all, how do you spend $1 billion and still lose? Typically with elections, the candidate that has the most money is the one that wins. $1 billion and you still lose. And I think to myself, all that money down the drain. I'm thinking about what we could have done with that money in this country, right? We could have put that money into low-income communities. We could have built clinics. We could have done so much more with that money. And it all went to a dead-end campaign. Dead-end campaign. Well, how did all this happen? Kamala Harris right now is facing $20 million in debt. And as much as Oprah and some other people want to pretend like they didn't get some type of payout from this, we're going to debunk some things tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go ahead and get into this story here from News Nation.
And the Harris campaign now in debt, $20 million. Lindy Lee, one member of the DNC's finance committee, says she and others were misled about the vice president's chance of winning the election. Lee says she helped raise millions for the campaign and now has to explain to donors why Harris lost. Just one example of their spending. The Harris campaign spent $450,000 a day. This was on ads displayed in Las Vegas, and now staff members and vendors are worried they may not get paid. News Nation's Kelly Meyer has been following this story and joins us live from the White House with the very latest. Kelly?
Yeah, the election may be over, but the mountain of debt from the short-lived campaign isn't going away fast enough for them. The Harris campaign trying to dig out of debt nearly a week after their resounding loss. And much of the spending was on digital media advertising, polling, and travel from state to state. According to the reports, the Harris campaign spending six figures building a set for Harris's appearance on the Call Her Daddy podcast with host Alex Cooper. A source...
Pause. Right there. Money problem number one. You know, I didn't think it was true. B.I.G. had a song back in the day. I don't know if the young folks know about Biggie. Biggie had a song back in the day called Mo Money, More Problems. Actually, it was Biggie, Diddy, and Mace. Biggie's voice was, you know, kind of, there was a track of Biggie's voice because this was after he died. Funny how Diddy got to profit off of that. Anyway, more money, more problems. So she had a lot of money. But the first money problem is they paid to build a set for the Call Her Daddy podcast. And my whole thing is, first of all, why did you need to build a set? Why did you need to build a set? Why couldn't you just go into a room like I am in a room and have that interview? Why you need to build a set? Why do people make things expensive that don't need to be expensive? Is this like just a rich people thing? Someone needs to explain this to me. So you didn't need to do that. You didn't need to do that. A lot of us that have podcasts, we don't build no set. Most of us don't have a studio. We just go into a room, shut the door, and here we are. So I don't understand that at all. That was a waste of money. Problem number one.
Familiar with the campaign, confirming to News Nation the reporting that the Harris campaign was $20 million in the hole after November 5th. And even though the campaign took in at least $1 billion and reported $118 million in the bank as of October 16th, they're still seeing that $20 million in the hole. Another big ticket price, the $15 million the Harris campaign spent on event production. That also went towards the celebrity performances leading up to the election, like that Election Eve rally with Lady Gaga, Katy Perry, Ricky Martin. And Harris also reportedly paid $1 million to Harpo Productions, that's owned by Oprah.
Pause. So this my thing, okay? Here's another thing. All of those celebrity performances, again, why did you need to have all those different celebrity performances? You only do that or feel like you need to do that if you're a weak candidate. Bernie Sanders had thousands of people at his rallies without celebrities. He didn't need one. I think Public Enemy was at one rally or something like that. But for most of them, there were no celebrities. You spend all that money on these people. More money, more problems. John Legend, you're friends with Kamala Harris, yes? So some of these people were friends with Kamala. You would have thought they would have made an appearance for free. I heard Eminem got paid. Eminem walked up on the stage. He didn't perform. Eminem walked up on the stage and he read, his little paragraph. He spoke for like a minute and 30 seconds and then Obama came on the stage. You had to pay him for that? If I'm your friend and I believe in what you're doing, I'm just going to come and do it and say, hey, yeah, we're friends. Let's just do it. But you didn't need to have all these celebrities. That was the first problem.
Oprah, we know, did a town hall with Harris back in September and appeared with Harris at her Election Eve rally in Philadelphia. And one GOP strategist putting it to us this way today, saying, quote, damned if you do, damned if you don't, giving the example of John Kerry having been criticized for still having $14 million unspent after his 2004 campaign. The strategist, though, called Harris's debt, quote, egregious, and that they were panic spending in the very end. Kelly.
So
panic spending.
Kelly, how is the campaign trying to make up these losses now?
Well, we know that they are still fundraising despite the loss, sending out these emails you could see asking to donate to the Harris Fight Fund program. What's interesting to point out is that the donations to the Harris presidential campaign are being partially redirected toward a vote recount effort. So when you click,
this is a scam. This is a scam. I'm sorry. This is a scam. Stop it. News Nation, you should have been pushing back on this. Let's make this very clear. Are you seriously trying to tell me that they are sending out emails asking people for more money for a recount? Get out of here. This woman lost the black vote, the youth vote, the Muslim vote. What are you recounting? The Latino vote? There's no counts for you left. This is a scam. Do people not pick up on this? Let me put two and two together. $20 million in debt. How are we going to pay this debt? Didn't win the campaign. You got to pay this debt. Oh, guys, we are raising money for a recount. Sounds like a scam. Sounds like the money that they're raising for the recount is to pay off this $20 million debt. Now, I'm no rocket scientist, but I'm just putting 2 and 2 together here. It seems a little bit strange. Ay. This is embarrassing.
Donate. That link takes you to the Act Blue website. And the fine print suggests that the vice president's campaign might be launching a recount effort allocated to the Harris for President's recount account is where the money would go. And Donald Trump, we know, won the election with 312 electoral college votes, including in all 7 battleground states. The president-elect has since suggested Republicans might help cover the Democrats' debts, writing on Truth Social over the weekend, quote, now they are being squeezed by vendors and others. Whatever we can do to help them during this difficult period, I would strongly recommend we, as a party and for the sake of desperately needed unity, do.
So that's Donald Trump there saying, well, let's try to help them, get this recount accomplished. And that's because Donald Trump knows the recount isn't going to show anything different. You got to be some type of fool to really believe that this is going to change something. I looked at the numbers. I looked at the data. No, you in debt, and now you asking for money. So it sounds like to me the money is going to be going towards the debt.
No word yet if President-elect Trump has followed through on that Truth Social post. Kelly.
All right, maybe a nice unity moment. Kelly Meyer.
Oh, that's him trying to prove a point. Him trying to say, oh, yeah, let's go ahead. I'll help you do that. Let's help you get this money for this recount so I can prove that I'm right. So what does all this have to do with Oprah and Al? Well, let's get started with Al. Al Sharpton. Kamala Harris gave $500,000 to MSNBC anchor's nonprofit before the network's fawning interview. I thought this was your friend. I thought you guys were homies. It goes on to say here, I don't know if I can make this big. Okay, I can. Vice President Harris presidential campaign delivered $500,000 in donations to Al Sharpton's nonprofit organization just prior to a glowing interview with the candidate on MSNBC. Harris's campaign gave 2 payments of $250,000 to National Action Network on September 5th and October 1st. This is according to the campaign finance records. Sharpton publicly backed Harris after Biden endorsed her to succeed him in his election campaign. After Sharpton's organization received donations from Harris, he got a coveted sit-down interview with her just 2 weeks before the election. So this is a pay-to-play scheme. You help me, I help you. She put money towards this nonprofit. Now it's like, oh, I'll do a glowing interview of you. Won't press you, right? Harris appeared on Sharpton's MSNBC Politics Nation show on October 20th. And it exclusively aired on the cable network. Now it goes into some of the quotes that she made there. There he is, Al Sharpton. There he is. Mr. Informant, Mr. Snitch. That's him. Now it goes on to say here, neither MSNBC or Al Sharpton disclosed the donations to Sharpton's organization during the interview where Harris spoke about issues pertaining to Black communities. The National Action Network did not respond to dailymail.com requests for comment. I bet they didn't. Jeez Louise. During the interview, Sharpton was asking Harris to react to the narrative that Black men were not supporting her due to misogyny in the community. She goes on to say, it's just not panning out in reality in terms of when I go to last night in Atlanta and have 10,000 people at a rally. Well, yeah, I mean, you had celebrities at that rally. Of course, if you told me that Meg Thee Stallion or someone's going to be here, I'm like, oh, I get to go see a free concert? Of course. So Al didn't tell anybody about this. And that's the interview they're referring to. I covered that one as well on the show. the Harris campaign increased spending with Black activist organizations in the final weeks of the campaign to boost Black voter turnout. So you see, so she knew she was struggling with the numbers. So let me donate and that'll help Black voter turnout. It did not. Sharpton pushed back against critics of Harris for branding her as Kamala the cop, defending her record as a progressive prosecutor. Actually, the person that she ran against was the progressive. The person who was already in office was the progressive. She ran to his right. So there's that. You know, so you look, she put money towards his organization. So he gives her an interview where he kisses her ass to make her look better than what she actually looks. You used to be attacked for being too progressive as an attorney. He said during the interview, Sharpton has sided with the Democratic Party throughout his activist career, but at one time he frequently spent time with Trump as a prominent New York celebrity. A lot of people spent time with Trump. This old school Al Sharpton, you guys, that's back when, see, young folk, hold up. Young people in the chat, some of you know Al Sharpton the way he looks today. I remember old school Al. I remember Al with the perm. And this is Al with the perm. That was Al Sharpton back in the day. And yeah, and it goes on, it says here how he loved Trump back then. It said, Donald Trump said, I have known Al for 25 years. We went to fights with him and Don King. Always got along well. He loved Trump. Trump wrote on social media. He would ask me for favors often. Al is a con man, a troublemaker, always looking for a score, just doing his thing. Al Sharpton. I can't believe they bust out the old school Al Sharpton photo there. But yeah, so Al Sharpton, his organization, Kamala Harris paid his organization $500,000. And then he did the glowing interview of her. People asking where this money went. I'm telling you where this money went, okay? And this is just to name a few. Now we get to Oprah. Remember this? Remember this town hall?
And it's about decency and respect and all the things that we were raised to believe about what it means to be an American citizen and pursue the American dream. And if that is important to you, I hope whether you are a Democrat or a Republican or somewhere in the middle, you will choose to vote your values because values are on the line in this election. And in no other country on this earth could her story unfold the way it has. From a child of immigrants to big sister to McDonald's worker, there is hope for y'all. District attorney, a wife, and mamala to senator to vice president. Please welcome Kamala Harris.
So everybody remember this. I have to mute this part for a second because of the music. So remember this town hall that Oprah hosted and you saw all the celebrities there on the screens in the background. I think Julia Roberts was there. Ben Stiller was there. Again, all the celebrification, and Kamala walks out, yada, yada. Let me shake the hands of all these people. There's Gretchen Whitmer. Remember this big event that was happening? Mm-hmm. Well, apparently this event cost some money. Some money. Everybody see it?
Hi. So welcome
Oprah.
to hello, Madam Vice President.
So everybody remembers this, right? Oprah had to do the ho. That event apparently cost a lot of money. Now I want to show you how much this event cost. And Oprah has been denying some things. So let's look at this. Oprah is saying she did not take a personal fee for the Harris event. You know, the way people word things is important, right? Because I can tell you that I didn't take a personal fee. But if my production company is the one that's being used, You know, let me get into this. So it says right here, Oprah said, I was not paid a dime. My time and energy was my way of supporting the campaign, Winfrey said in a comment on Instagram. I did not take a personal fee. However, the people who worked on that production needed to be paid and were. End of story. Let's look at this, guys. Look at the FEC filing, because you see, one thing about campaigns is the spending has to be filed here. So you will see spending here. Now, when I'm looking at the FEC filing, October 15th, 2024, Kamala Harris for president. Everybody see this? Harpo Productions Incorporated, $500,000. There's another one here. Harris for president. Harpo Productions Incorporated, October 15th, $500,000. So together, that's $1 million. So Oprah may not have received a personal fee, a check that was made out to her, but Harpo Productions is Oprah's company. Now, when Oprah says, well, the production people needed to be paid. Okay. How much did you pay the production people? And once again, and we can come back to that FEC filing in just a second. Once again, why did you have to have an expensive set, an expensive production? I have seen Oprah Winfrey interview Prince Harry and Meghan at their house. I saw Oprah Winfrey interview Michael Jackson at his house. I've seen Oprah Winfrey interview people outside. Why did you need a $1 million set? This is insane. Doesn't make any sense. So it just, this is not needed. This was not needed. You can get, again, a room, set up chairs. I know how much this stuff costs because I used to do event planning. When I worked at the university, part of my job was to coordinate the events for the students. I know how much it costs to get chairs. I planned my own wedding. I know how much those chairs cost. I know how much these things cost to get tables and chairs. Now I'm looking at this room. And in this room, we see chairs. But there's a little, end table here between Oprah and Kamala. Did you guys buy these couches? Did you buy new couches for this event? You guys couldn't just sit on two chairs? And then everybody else in the audience is sitting on a regular chair. Then you have the celebrities on the screens in the background. So that's the virtual stuff. So what I'm trying to figure out is, and let's see if I can go back here just a little bit. Can we go back? Here we go. This is the setup. So you got the camera crew here over towards the right. You got the production people. So you got a cameraman. Someone is managing the webinar here, the virtual webinar and all that kind of stuff. But you mean to tell me there was no other way to make this a cheaper event? I don't want to hear. Guys, I sat in a room with a couple other people with a round table right in front of me for free, interviewing them, so that there's no excuse for this. So all this money that was spent is just, this is bad money management. Bad money management, fam. $500,000, $500, Harpo Productions. You didn't even need all that. You didn't even need, I have a difficult time understanding this. What is it, Auntie Shawnee? They rented those chairs and couches. Okay, they rented them. So that's even cheaper. But what is happening? And Zoom, by the way, if they use Zoom, I'm not sure if they did, but Zoom, I have the webinar account for Zoom. That's $50 a month. I'm just trying to add all this up in my head. I'm just trying to come up with that $1 million. So something to me just don't feel right. Don't feel right. And then I think if you guys wanted to see more, yeah, you can do it by the amount. So you can see just all the money. And don't get me wrong, campaigns do spend a lot of money. But I'm just trying to figure out again, did you really need to spend $1 million? Child of God said they had $1 billion though. Where'd that money go? Exactly. What did you use? And they said, well, we had ads. Every campaign has ads. Next. Well, we had travel. All these candidates travel. Next. I'm trying to figure out where you spent. They spent it on the celebrities, guys. They spent it on the celebrities. And now they're $20 million in debt. Nat said that could have went towards student debt forgiveness. You damn right. It could have went towards something. $1 billion could have went toward a poor community, could have transformed that whole community. Where all this money come from? As soon as you need people to give money to a campaign, the money just fly right out the door. But you got people sitting there who are billionaires, got all this money, and I don't see them trying to put that money towards fixing up poor communities. That's the thing that pisses me off. All that money went to a campaign that lost. It doesn't make any sense. I need someone to do accounting because I find it absolutely ridiculous. You paid $1 million for that town hall. We live in a cartoon. Let's go to some of the comments here, folks. It is a hot mess, okay? A hot mess. Thank you, GDNPB. Can us convicts and those who love them tell people to STFU on this? He is a convicted felon BS. You don't even have to be guilty of a crime to be convicted in this country. Well, I think Nina Turner has been sounding that alarm on Twitter for quite some time, trying to tell people this is not a good selling point. Stop doing that. Thank you, the well-dressed nerd. All politicians are opportunists. Spark Joy. Kamala paid over $1 million each to Oprah, Beyonce, and Katy Perry to endorse her. And the Beyonce thing. Why did you have a rally? Why did you have an expensive rally in Houston, Texas? Texas is red. Who came up with this stuff, man? Thank you, Naya. Doug Burgum, who was picked to lead Department of Interior. Interesting. I have to look that one up. Thanks, Zoe. Friendship is only transactional for ultra elite. They go from private schools to fraternities, then country clubs to make friends with certain people. Thank you, Jay Thomas. Tell Roman to use give, send, go. They always give the money and keep in touch to see how things are doing. Fine, folks. Oh, that's a good idea. I think they're probably not going to change it at this point just because they don't want to confuse people, but I'll remember that in the future. Thank you. Thank you, Xavier. Kamala would have done better in the elections if she used that $1 billion paying off people's medical bills and or student loans. Hey, that's an idea. JB says Al Sharpton's father lives here in Orlando. My mom met him. Interesting. Thank you, Lonzo, for the super sticker in the house. And thank you, None of Your Business, Money Laundromat. You know? And that's what I'm wondering. Let's get the Rumble rant, Eric. A hot mess. Thank you, Laugh 66. In Europe, we live in caves when Iran was inventing algebra. In Europe, we lived in caves when Iran was inventing algebra. Wow. There you go. Crazy. Sharon over 1 billion and couldn't even win a battleground state, right? Okay. Woo. Okay. All right. We're going to move on to the next story here. This was pretty interesting. Apparently, AOC was pretty shocked after her re-election. She found out that some of her supporters voted for Donald Trump. Some of AOC's constituents who voted for her also voted for Donald Trump. Take a look at this. And I think this says something about populism, right? Why is AOC looking for the accounts and podcasts that Trump voters listen to? Is she trying to create a hit list she'll go after with the federal government? Actually, let me pull this out of here and pull it up here because it's a twofer. And then open this up and then I'll bring her back in. So apparently on Instagram, You know, every now and then AOC does these live events, and she was trying to figure out why some of her supporters voted for Trump. Listen to this.
Which podcasts are you listening to? Which accounts are you subscribing to? I'm interested, like genuinely. Let me know which ones specifically, which accounts, which podcasts, etc. Which podcasts are you listening to? Which accounts are you subscribing to? I'm interested, like genuinely. Let me know which ones specifically, which accounts, which podcasts, etc.
Don't do that. Don't do that. Why? She doesn't go on those shows anyway. AOC has not been on any left independent media show since she won the first time. She went on Jimmy Dore's show. She was on Glenn Greenwald's show. She hasn't even been on, and I'm talking about some of her biggest supporters. I never even saw her on Kyle's show. I never saw her on Secular Talk. I never saw her on Breaking Points. I never saw her on, actually, I don't think I saw her on Rising when Crystal and Saga were on Rising. I've never seen her on, was she on Majority Report since she won? Yeah, like, so why do you care what podcasts people are watching? You don't go on those shows anyway. She goes on to Pod Save America. She'll go on to CNN. Pod Save America is the Obama joint. So keep that in mind. So she'll go on to those shows. Why do you care who these people are listening to? So AOC is trying to grapple with something here because she doesn't understand why someone who voted for her for Congress would vote for Donald Trump for president. And this goes back to what I've been saying before. Not just this election, but this one really does stand out. There are a number of people who don't vote down ballot. I saw this happen in 2020 as well. There were a couple people I knew where they're Republican and they voted for the Republican congressional seats, but they voted for Joe Biden for president. It happens sometimes. People don't always vote down ballot. But I think what it really comes down to is populism. Because populism is popular. Now, listen to the CNN panel, because they're trying to figure this out. They're like, oh, God, how could this happen? Jake Tapper is like, what is going on? And this just goes to show you how the Democratic Party is completely out of touch with their own base. Listen to this.
Something really interesting, guys. Kevin, let me start with you. So Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, very progressive New Yorker, she went on Instagram to ask people, looking at the polls and realizing like, hey, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of people that voted for me in my district and also voted for Donald Trump. Why? But like she asked in a nice way to explain. And some of the response, she's posting the responses, some of them, quote, it's real simple. Trump and you care for the working class. Quote, I feel that you are both outsiders compared to the rest of DC and less establishment. Quote, I support you and did this. Felt like I didn't have much of a choice after Biden's administration.
Let me pause there. I don't consider AOC to be an outsider anymore, right? Like she was at first, but AOC has learned to fit right in with Democrat establishment since she's been there, right? So she went from protesting outside Nancy Pelosi's office to calling Nancy Pelosi Mama Bear. She learned the game very quickly. Okay. So I don't know if I don't consider her to be that way anymore, but going in there, yeah, I could see that. Caring about the working class. I support you and did this, felt like I didn't have a choice after the Biden administration. So what this goes to show you is that you can't just put voters in a box anymore. That some of us may agree that we want everyone to have healthcare. We want universal healthcare in this country. And then also may agree that the immigration issue needs to be fixed. Some of us may agree that we need to cancel student debt. We need to cancel medical debt, and also still may agree that the economy under the Biden-Harris administration is a mess, and may also agree that the border issue has been a disaster under this administration. And the problem with the two parties is that they tend to see these voters as separate. And what we've noticed over the past couple of years is that these voters aren't that much separate anymore when it comes to these issues. So I think that it's a mistake to put voters in a box.
What do you think?
Well, and some of those notes also struck a chord when it comes to authenticity, right? They talked about being authentic candidates for office. Listen, Donald Trump increased his share in that New York City district, AOC's district, by double digits. So you're seeing, and I think you're going to see a lot more of this analysis go on, especially in the states where you saw a high level of ticket splitting, whether it be Democratic senators holding their own in Wisconsin, electing obviously a Democratic governor in North Carolina, while losing the state to Donald Trump. You're going to see these Democrats, I think, now reassess what messaging, kind of broke through and what Donald Trump was able to capture.
It's populism. And that's what I'm trying to get across to people. It's populism. This is what Bernie, there's a reason why when Bernie was running for president, particularly the last race in 2020, there's a reason why he had the most support from independents. It was populism. He had an economic message that was a populist message that resonated with working class people. There's a reason why. But at that time, CNN, you, Jake Tapper, MSNBC, Fox News, all of you guys shamed Bernie Sanders. All of you guys said, no way, that's socialism. First of all, I'm gonna need people to learn the definition of socialism. Socialism is workers owning the means of production. What Bernie Sanders was talking about was not workers owning the means of production. He was talking about the same type of system that they have in some of the Scandinavian countries in Europe. Those are not socialist countries. But what happened was corporate media ran with that narrative that is socialism and they want to take your health care away. And this is why I'll tell you again about the media. Jordan Sheraton is right when he says we need to be protesting corporate media. They took that message and they ran with it, and it scared people. And it is worse. And to make it worse, his own damn party, the Democratic Party, didn't even want to back Bernie. They wanted anyone but him. They even would have been okay with Trump before they would have been okay with Bernie Sanders. They won't tell you that, but I think we know. So that's what it is. So this could be AOC's way of putting out a message there to the Democrat Party leadership and letting them know, well, my voters, some of them voted for Trump and they voted for me. And that could be AOC's way of trying to slide herself in for 2028. I'm thinking down the road, folks. I'm telling you, we live in a cartoon, but we're going to use our imagination. And that's what we do on this show sometimes. I'm wondering if this was AOC's way of letting Dem leadership know that she can be considered to be on the same level as Donald Trump. Thus, she could be a good option for them to push to run for president in 2028. She will be of age. I think about these things sometimes. I'm a dreamer and a lover, not a fighter.
Assess what messaging, kind of broke through and what Donald Trump was able to capture. The energy on the ground.
The ticket splitting so interesting, I think.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. I talked to Jamal Bowman the other day, outgoing member, also up there in the Bronx, and he said the same thing. He said, a lot of people who went for Donald Trump actually voted for me in the primary. Isn't that interesting that the campaign didn't use me on the stump? Sure. Kind of taking shots. But I think he attributed it to him being just more relatable than than his opponent. And I thought that was also an interesting dynamic when you see, a lot of Latino voters changing their vote recently, going from Democrats to Republicans.
Yeah, I think it's really, obviously this is the billionaire who the working class identify with in Donald Trump. And I think the part where they said they're both outsiders really struck with me because I think it was the economy and both AOC and Donald Trump fight for it. Different ways, different policy prescriptions, but they talk about it. And then that ability to connect with people, especially for AOC being very close to the district, but Donald Trump obviously projecting it via social media during the national media, because he did spend some time in that area, but not a lot.
Senator
Let me pause there. So to this point, I want to point out Spark Joy said Gavin Newsom is going to run in 2028. I think Gavin Newsom has two things. Number one, the good thing about Gavin Newsom is he already has an in because he's related to Nancy Pelosi by marriage. So he already has that in. The bad thing for Gavin Newsom is that Gavin Newsom is the governor of California, and California is an economic disaster. Economic disaster. I can see it right now. I can see it right now. Donald Trump and Gavin Newsom debating each other on the stage, or JD Vance at that point. We don't know. How old is Trump? I don't know what Trump's doing, but I can see it right now. Them saying, oh, whoa, you want this guy to be president of the United States? Have you been to California? You know what I mean? You could even say it in like a Chandler voice. Chandler from Friends. Have you been to California? So I don't know. That might not work out too well for Gavin Newsom. But same thing with AOC. I'm not saying this to say that she would win. We don't know. I think she would have a difficult time winning. I really do. But the Democratic Party, they need to change something. And they could be kind of seeing, okay, well, maybe because AOC is very popular, maybe she could be that one that runs in 2028. Do I think that she would win? No, I think she would still probably lose. But put it this way, the Trump administration would have to mess up so badly with the economy for AOC to win. I think the economy would still be a deciding factor. But even then, I think that she would have a hard time winning. But who knows? That's like what, 4.5 years from now? 4.5 years from now.
Elect Andy Kim of New Jersey. He used to represent this congressional district that was a Trump district. And I remember talking to him, and I forget if this was on air or off air, but I said something like, do you know who these 50,000 people are who vote for you and vote for Donald Trump? And he knew who they were, and he knew why they voted for both of them. And it's just an interesting thing. And it's obviously something that Democrats need to be doing more of.
And to your point, Jake, Senator-elect Kim, after those results came in, went on a listening tour of that congressional district in New Jersey to figure out what was powering the thought behind, supporting him as a member of Congress and Donald Trump at the top of the ticket, and that spillover. And we saw it in 2016, where you had a good number of Bernie Sanders supporters, to Khadijah's point, jump over and support Donald Trump in the general election when he went down. Same with Jamal Bowman losing in that primary. You saw some of those folks probably go over to the other side and support Donald Trump. It's interesting, these changing dynamics, demographics, things on the ground.
So
it's populism. And then also another thing I want to add to this is people don't always vote the same for the presidential race as they do for the congressional races, or they do for like the gubernatorial races. Local politics is a little bit different. Massachusetts, my state here, we've done that before as well. While this state went to Hillary Clinton in 2016, it also went to Governor Charlie Baker, who was a Republican. We've been known to do that here in Massachusetts, where our governor is a Republican, but the state votes for the Democratic presidential candidate. North Carolina has also been known to do that. So there's that. But I think the general message here overall is populism. But there's a problem that AOC has, and I want to show you the turnout over time, because I told you guys voter turnout has been decreasing, and I'm not exaggerating about that. And it's no different with her. Look at this for New York election results, the 14th district. Now, this is the 2020. So we went all the way back to 2020 because they have races every 2 years, right? So all the way back to 2020, AOC received 71.6%. That's good. 71.6%. Do you see that? Over 152,000 votes. In 2022, I'm showing you how people are dropping off. In 2022, she received 70.7%, a little over 82,000 votes. And in this most recent election, in 2024, she received 68.9%, although she did get a little bit over 123,000 votes. What you've seen, though, is this the same person she ran again? Tina Forte? Tina, did you run? Damn, Tina. Okay, so Tina ran twice in a row. Interesting. But what you're seeing overall, let me look at the turnout. It was a little bit higher this time. The turnout this time for both was 178, little over 178,000, right? And then the turnout for 2022 was 116,000. Again, that's also a midterm year. And then the turnout for 2020 was definitely a lot higher, over 213,000. But the reality is that, and this is what I was trying to tell people, the turnout has been decreasing over time. And that's something that we do have to be real about. Now, why is that? We saw that with Kamala Harris too. People are less engaged. Even some people that said they were going to vote third party at the end decide to stay home. People are just less engaged with going to vote for these politicians. And I totally understand. Like, I can't shade them for that, right? Now, some people are saying some things that are not completely true about that. I want to be very clear about this. Let's look at this for a second with New York. Now, this is from Marcus says, AOC removing her pronouns, Trump approaching 45% support from New Yorkers. Welcome to the Trump era Democrats. First of all, let me address the pronoun issue. There's a bunch of people tweeting that AOC just removed her pronouns after she realized some of her voters voted for Trump. That was done in 2023. So just FYI for people wondering about that, that was removed in 2023. That wasn't done recently. So just FYI. That being said, look at what's happening in New York. And this is very telling. Again, Kamala Harris, 55.86%. Donald Trump, 44.14%. In New York. That's an increase for him. So you can see what was happening here, right? There's an increase, like something shift. And I told you, I talked to New Yorkers before on the show. A big part of it was the migrant crisis. People had things to say about that. People also had things to say about the economy overall. Not happy with that as well. But there were a lot of people that were upset about the migrant crisis. And that also includes Eric Adams, to be honest. He was upset about that too, because he said we don't have the resources for this. But you are seeing a shift. You're seeing a change in New York, of all places. If you were to look at this is important. Raw vote change for Democrats in 2020, from 2020 to 2024. This is the difference. -2 million Black voters, -2 million Latino voters, -3 million under 30-year-old voters, -6 million people who make under $50,000. -7 million people who make under $50,000 or between $50,000 and $99,000, plus 7 million for those who make $100,000 or more. Democrats have lost support with every group except voters who make over $100,000 or more. This is what happened when you abandon the working class. That's coming from Proud Socialist. Shout out to Ryan Knight there. It's populism. So all these years, the Democratic Party been moving to the right. That is not working for their base. But a populist message does. This is why Bernie got so much support from independents. So the connection between AOC voters voting for her and voting for Donald Trump, even though they're in different parties, it's a populist message that is able to appeal to the working class. And this is why someone like Kamala Harris lost. And this is why someone like Hillary Clinton lost. And that's why Donald Trump won. Things to think about there, folks. Things to think about. Let's go to some of the comments here. Dooch. Eric, we can go to the next part. Thank you, International Party of Antarctica. Barron, a clone of Trump from, Annika DNA Epstein. Ugh. DNA Epstein. Interesting. Thank you, Samud. I don't know what that is. Fuck. They're going to do 2028 AOC versus JD Vance. Y'all brain melt. I could see either they try to push AOC or they try to push Rokana. We're going to talk about Rokana tomorrow night. Thank you, Xavier. Hey, AOC, I listened to Sabby Sabs and you can kiss my ass. I listened to Miss Salvati and I'm not being naughty like your political party. I see you broke out a little rhyme there. I see what you did. Thank you, New York Varsity. When Christian Smalls needed AOC, she said it was not her district. But when he succeeded, she was the first to jump in front of the parade. Yes, she was. I remember that. Thank you, IH. AOC wants to know where we live. Maybe she will use Israeli technology to target us. Dun, dun, dun. Thank you, Trusting Success. Sabby, when you said, damn, Tina, I thought about, damn, Gina from Martin. Yeah, I know what you mean. All right, guys, we've made it to our final story. If you haven't had a chance to do so, smash the like. Yeah. And if you're new, don't forget to like, sub, and share. We're on a roll. We're on a roll. Okay. And now it's time for something fun. You guys are going to laugh, or I hope you're going to laugh. Roland Martin is at it again, folks. That's right. It was one thing when he came after me, but now he seems to have started a beef with Brianna Joy Gray. Pow, 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 pow. We're going to get into this exchange, and then I'm going to explain to you why Roland Martin is really angry, what he's really upset about. I'm telling you again, we live in a cartoon. Let's get into it. It all started with this tweet from Crystal Ball. Some Dems are finally admitting Bernie woulda won, and she is referring to Chris Murphy. So Chris Murphy, I believe he's in Connecticut. Chris Murphy has finally come around after all these years, right? And he's finally admitting that, you know what, maybe Bernie Sanders was right. Maybe the whole populist idea was correct. Well, Roland Martin retweeted Crystal Ball and said, no, Crystal, Bernie Sanders would not have won. His Black support was tepid. Y'all are still living in a delusional world. Was his Black support tepid? That's not what I saw on the ground. Bernie Sanders did really well with young Black voters. These are the things that Roland Martin doesn't want to mention. He doesn't want his dim supporters to know, right? He's one of the people. Remember, he gave those debate questions to Hillary Clinton. So his beef with Bernie Sanders goes all the way back to 2016, not 2020. Okay, going back to 2016 when he was handing Hillary Clinton debate questions. So keep that in mind. So Roly Poe has to come in and say, no, Black support. Okay. Brianna Joy Gray, I think she did this best. She retweeted Roland Martin and she said, Bernie's Black support was always higher than Kamala's. And here we go with receipts. This was from The Intercept. Bernie Sanders is beating Kamala Harris 2-1 among Black Democratic primary voters, new poll finds. This is true for those of us who remember this. It goes on to say, here is another receipt. Sanders surpasses Biden among African-American voters. See, the numbers were always there, right? But again, that's not who the establishment wanted. The Dem leadership didn't want Bernie Sanders. They didn't even know if Biden was going to beat Trump, but they knew that Biden would beat Bernie. So that was why they said, let's push Bernie, let's push Biden, even though Bernie Sanders had already won New Hampshire at that point in time, and he had already won Nevada. It was when it got to South Carolina where that race started to change. And that was because Clyburn said, we're going to go out there and we're going to vote for Joe Biden. And all those Black folk listen to Joe Biden, listen to Clyburn and said, okay, we'll do what you say and we're going to vote for Joe Biden. And what Roland Martin, and I don't want to say doesn't understand, he understands. Let's be very clear. Roland Martin knows exactly what happened, and he knows that Bernie Sanders was beating Kamala Harris with Black support in 2020. Kamala Harris at one point during the Dem primary had 1% from Black voters. So Roland Martin knows this. So I hear a lot of people online and they're saying like, how does he not know this? How does he not understand? No. We have to change our framing. Roland Martin knows exactly what you're talking about. He is not stupid. He is not unaware. He is not uninformed. He is paid to pretend like he does not know. He is a Democrat Party operative. He is paid to pretend that what you're saying is not true. Everyone has to understand that. I know how this game is played. So let me show you what he does. So he comes back to Brie and he says, by the way, Brie, you cite 2020 stories. What actually happened when people voted? Y'all always skip over that. So when people voted, Bernie Sanders won New Hampshire, he won Nevada, and when it came to South Carolina, he came in second place. So what do you mean? What happened when people voted? And I would argue he only came in second place because Clyburn told everybody to vote for Biden. And listen, I graduated from college in South Carolina. I never understood why people had this admiration for Jim Clyburn. Jim Clyburn lives very well, while most of the people in his district don't. But because he's older black guy and he's like, I'm progressive and I fought for things. South Carolina has the oldest electorate. So when we tell you that Bernie Sanders did really well with young black voters, you have to remember there's a difference when you go to South Carolina because they have the oldest electorate. Older black voters tend to vote for who? Those that come through the black church that already have that tight relationship with people in the black church. Jim Clyburn has people on speed dial that are a part of Black Greek organizations, and he has the pastors on speed dial. He already has an in. He's already got that connection. So whoever he tells them to support, that's who they're going to support. Fish fry. So that's Roland trying to do a clap back, right? You see what I'm saying? Okay. So let me ask you this question, Roland. What happened when people voted this time for Kamala Harris presidency? What happened this time? She lost. So what are you talking about? Now, Brie responds and she said he came in second, unlike Kamala, who had to drop out before her home state voted because she was getting molly whooped by Andrew Yang. And this is true. Andrew Yang was beating Kamala Harris in her own state. We have to go back and revisit that Dem 2020 primary at some point. Andrew Yang was beating Kamala Harris in her own state. And people like Roland Martin wanted you to believe that this was a great candidate. She never was. Never was. He went as far as to even he's mocking the Palestinian people, right? There's an article by Politico that said Dearborn's Arab Americans didn't just vote for Trump, they punished Harris. He retweets this and he says, holla at me in 6 months, Dearborn. We tried to tell y'all. That's the coldest thing. That's some cold shit that you can say to somebody. Isn't that cold? People whose lifelines have gone through a genocide. That's some really cold shit. So Brie claps back and says, this is incredibly offensive, deeply shameful. You voted for the woman whose administration perpetrated a genocide, is still funding an ethnic cleansing campaign. And instead of fighting the people behind this, you're dancing on the graves of victims. Vile work. Because this is what Roland Martin is paid to do. Kamala is his friend. That's his friend. He's there to protect Kamala the same way he was protecting Hillary Clinton, so much to the point that he would give her debate questions. He's a Democrat operative. That's what Roland Martin is. To the point about Bernie Sanders and black support. What people like Roland Martin tend to leave out is even though Joe Biden won South Carolina again because Clyburn said vote for Joe Biden and people followed Clyburn, what he tends to leave out is that those southern states don't turn blue anyway. In the general election, South Carolina isn't blue. Florida wasn't blue. North Carolina hasn't been blue since Obama. Tennessee is not blue. So people like Roland, what they try to use as the excuse is that, well, Bernie won South Carolina. Yeah, in the Dem primary, Biden won South Carolina. In the Dem primary, Biden wasn't going to win South Carolina in the general election. So why were you sitting here acting like he was? It's not really about Brie, though. He not really mad at her. Let me tell you what he mad about. Get ready to laugh. I hope you guys are ready for some chuckles. This is why Roland Martin is really mad.
The next leader of the Democratic National Committee has to come in with a big-ass trash can. I think the next leader of the Democratic National Committee has to make it clear that there are consultants and folks under contract who should be given their walking papers. Because the advice and the counsel that was given was shameful. The DNC, even though the DNC chair cannot control PACs, Future Forward needs to get called out. How are you the designated PAC for the campaign? And I travel this country, and I was in battleground states, and I was watching television and listening to radio, and y'all supposedly were running the stuff. It was amazing how I didn't see it. But I saw lots of Make America Great Again PAC and Trump campaign commercials.
So now it has to deal with advertising, right? I saw Kamala Harris commercials. That's not why she lost. Everybody want to point fingers at everybody else except for Kamala Harris, right? This is why he really mad, guys. He's not really mad at Brie. Honestly, he ain't even really mad at me. He's mad because his friend lost. That's what this is really about. Because this is two for you, man. This Hillary, this Kamala. And had it not been for the pandemic, Biden wouldn't have won either. You would have been 0-3.
So I think that's one. Two, you got to have a leader who can communicate in the streets and the suites. Mm-hmm. You've got to have somebody who is aggressive enough to go on media outlets and not just MSNBC.
Mm-hmm. So here we go. Everybody listening to this? This is why he mad. And look at the bottom. It says convicted felon elected as 47th president. Felon. There they go with that felon again, right? This is a class issue.
But showing your ass up to this show, to Sirius XM radio shows, going to other digital shows and podcasts, and actually having a media strategy.
Yeah.
It means hiring a team to put back together the black political infrastructure that was obliterated when Obama was president. Mm-hmm. That has to happen as well. And you also have got to have a DNC, and that's the DNC. Republicans are going to control the Senate. Democrats, Chuck Schumer cannot be the minority leader.
Oh, yeah.
I don't give a damn how much money Chuck Schumer can raise. Chuck Schumer no longer can be the Democrat minority leader.
Now, isn't this the same thing many of us in independent media have been saying for a long time, that some of these people need to retire? Haven't we been saying these things? But when I said these things on Twitter, I got attacked by Roland Martin. So what? So Roland can say it, but we can't say it. Roland knew that we were right. Roland Martin knows this party ain't shit. He knows. He just don't want to hear from us. He wants to be the one to say it. Democrat operative.
In the United States Senate. His time is done. On the House side, I don't want to see Nancy Pelosi's ass again on television doing interviews. It's time for you to go. Hakeem Jeffries is not. If Democrats regain the House, he becomes a majority. He becomes Speaker of the House. If Republicans control it, he's the minority leader. Nancy, it's time for you to go home to your husband. No. I'm saying that for a reason. Because you have to understand, you cannot continue to have 75, 78, 79, 80, 81, 82-year-old people laying out your strategy when you're trying to reach demos, and when Nancy goes and she don't do black media, because she damn sure didn't do black media when I asked was speaker.
Oh, see, it's all coming out now, ladies and gentlemen, because Kamala lost. Now it's all coming out. Now, Nancy, don't do black media. Nancy, it's time for you to go home to your husband. But when we said these things, we were called right wing. We were called grifters. Roland Martin told me I don't know anything about politics. He told me I was stupid when I said those things. And he always seems to really come after women. I've noticed that much. But now, because Kamala lost, now it's okay to say it. But he has to be the one to say it with his gatekeeping ass, right? This is the gatekeeper of the keepers.
But she'll hop on MSNBC show, and thank goodness we ain't gonna see her on Andrea Mitchell, because Andrea Mitchell tired ass done with her show. I'm saying this because you cannot put new wine in old wineskins. You cannot have these folks who are still trying to use a playbook that's 20, 25 years old when literally what is facing us is totally different.
That's true.
It simply cannot happen. And this is also the moment where the Congressional Black Caucus has to truly wield its power and put some of your fellow Democrats' asses in line. You are the largest caucus in the Democratic Party. You should be setting the agenda. You should be leading the fight.
Right. JB is correct. If Roland Martin would have actually heard us out, and I told him multiple times, instead of yelling at me on Twitter, why don't you come onto my show? If he would have actually listened to what those of us in independent media were saying and what we were hearing from people on the ground, you guys saw I interviewed people on the ground. If he would have actually paid attention to what we were trying to tell people, he would have been prepared for this moment. He would have not been as heartbroken, as shocked, or I don't know what the hell he was thinking going into the election, but he would have not been as surprised if he would have listened to some of us. But because he thinks he knows everything, this is an ego moment. He doesn't want to listen to anybody else. He don't want to listen to us. It's funny. He was like, you YouTubers. Motherfucker, you on YouTube too. It kills me when people say stuff like that. This classist attitudes like, oh, it's different between the people who are journalists and the YouTubers. You're on YouTube. This is YouTube right now. What are you talking about? So don't try to pretend like you above me, motherfucker. You got fired from CNN. So yeah, at one point you were over there in corporate media, but they let your ass go. You over here on YouTube just like me. So let's stop pretending Like you so much above me. Get out of here.
And then we start talking about all of these different groups, CBC PAC, and all these other PACs and groups. What the hell are y'all gonna be funding? Politico dropped the story, somebody leaked it, that the CBC offered up a $10 million proposal to the Harris campaign to do a bus tour and to help out, invest in 2 groups to help these various House races. It wasn't the Harris campaign job to help you win House races. That's what you were supposed to do. And the campaign turned it down. But let me be as real clear as possible. A CBC bus tour ain't it, y'all. What the CBC should have been saying is, send that $10 million to Black Voters Matter, to New Georgia, to Georgia Stand Up. Send to the actual groups that are on the ground. Because the data don't lie.
And let's get it. So now we're going to get into the data. This is the funny part too. Like this is cracking me up because everybody's saying this stuff now, but when she was running, you ain't had no criticism for her campaign. No criticism. Even I had criticism. Even I had critiques for Jill Stein's campaign, but he had no criticism. Everybody was just, oh, the campaign's great. Look at all this energy. We raised all this money. Oprah's here. Bruce Springsteen. Someone's cat. You guys had nothing to say. The moment she lost, it all comes out.
Because the data don't lie. Y'all, numbers ran. Michigan, as of right now. And again, what did I say? Detroit, 47% turnout.
Oh, my God.
She lost Michigan by 81,750 votes.
But no, according to you, Roland, it was just the Muslim voters in Michigan. You see, she lost Detroit. Detroit is like 80% black. She lost that. How you lose Detroit? Detroit City. Get James Brown up in here. What do you say? New Orleans, New Orleans, Detroit City, Detroit City. Living in America. Station to station. I'm silly over here.
Pennsylvania. I told y'all, 10% drop off in Philadelphia. Some say that comes out to be about 250,000 votes. She lost Pennsylvania by 130,487 votes.
You mean the bathtub greens didn't make people want to come out and support her in Philadelphia?
Wisconsin. What did I tell y'all what happened in 2022? 50,000 fewer people voted in Milwaukee than they did in 2020. If those 50,000 people in Milwaukee vote in 2022, Mandela Barnes is United States Senator because Mandela Barnes lost Wisconsin by 26,000 votes. Right now, Kamala Harris is losing Wisconsin by 29,634 votes.
That's UW.
Nevada, down 63,114.
And I'm glad he mentioned Nevada because guess what? As much as they want to blame Jill Stein, and by the way, he's still on Twitter trying to blame Jill Stein. This is him saying the data, which lets you know he knows damn well, according to the data, even if all of Jill Stein's vote went to Kamala Harris, she still loses. It's called doing basic math. Jill Stein was not on the ballot in Nevada. Over 15,000 people voted for none of these options. Over 15,000 people in Nevada voted for none of these options. So is it Jill Stein's fault that Kamala lost Nevada too? No, it was her. Do the math. She still loses with Jill Stein's votes, and she still loses the popular vote. But Roland's on Twitter telling people it's Jill Stein's fault. Democrat operative.
So if you look at Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania, folks, we're talking 3 states, 250,000 votes. There's 250,000 votes. That's the difference between being president and going back to California. 15 million people sat out. The next chair of the DNC needs to put the map on the wall and needs to say, city by city, what the turnout was. And then they should go, first of all, state by state, then go county by county, city by city, and then specifically for us, go, I need to see the precincts in Milwaukee. I need to see the precincts in Philadelphia. I need to see the precincts in Charlotte. Oh, but speaking of North Carolina, damn it, can y'all please stop going to Western North Carolina? Do y'all understand that since 2020, the VP made about 18 trips to North Carolina?
Yeah.
1 to Eastern North Carolina. There was a county, I think it's Anson County, North Carolina, that's 40% black. Trump won that county. How? Y'all, this is math.
Yeah.
So if I
Yeah, and math, and a part of that math is economics. A part of that math is the economy. That's why Trump was able to win some of those counties that Biden won in 2020. He flipped counties. Number one issue for people was the economy. What? And then she lost the youth vote because of Gaza. She was a poor candidate.
I'm going through the data. If I'm going through the data, I'm in search of votes. And now I'm saying the data is showing who did not show up. And now I'm creating conversations and coffees and dialogues and whatever kind of sessions in those places because I'm preparing for 2026. I can tell you what Speaker Don Scott, Virginia, is already doing. I can guarantee you, Don ain't waiting until the fall for the elections in Virginia. I guarantee you, there are going to be conversations happening in January, in February, in March, in April, in critical House districts about what they've accomplished in Virginia since Democrats took control of the House. They're not going to wait till the end of the year. Lastly, and I love somebody sitting and talking about Roland trying to figure it out. I ain't trying to figure it out. Hell, I've been trying to tell y'all this shit for the last year. This ain't nothing new.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you what the next leader has to do.
Nah, bruh, you was out there kissing Kamala's ass and you were attacking anybody else on social media that was trying to warn people that she didn't have the numbers. And it was even worse under Biden. They didn't have it. This administration did not have it. So no need to get sassy with people. Jesus, yeah, you are trying to figure it out. You're trying to figure it out. Trying to figure out what happened to all those, what happened to all those numbers, what happened to all those votes. A lot of people stayed home and you can't blame them. It is not on the voters to come out and support your chosen candidate, which, by the way, I'll never hear him bring that up, that Kamala Harris was selected. There was no primary. There should have been a real primary. But it's not on them. It's on the candidate to appeal to the people. Bernie Sanders went to 50 states. Barack Obama went to 50 states. Somewhere along the line, politicians decided they only needed to go to the swing states. I don't know how I feel about that. I think part of the reason why Bernie Sanders was so popular and Barack Obama was so popular, other than the policies that they were running on, is because they had a 50-state strategy. I don't know why in the hell Kamala thought it was a good idea to go to Houston and do this rally and have Beyonce appear, and it wasn't a Beyonce concert. Texas was never going to turn blue. That was wasted money to me. You don't need advisors to tell you that. It's common sense. You can look up the map yourself and you can see that Texas has been red for years. So why would you spend money there? All this money on this concert in Texas. I told you the urban folk weren't feeling her in that way. I told you that she was having a problem. How many times did I come on the show and tell you she's having problems in Philly? How many times I come on the show and tell you, I don't know. Look at her support for black people. She's struggling a little bit. Hillary Clinton received more of the black vote than Kamala Harris did. And Hillary lost too. Oh, and by the way, another thing I want to tell you guys too, for all the people that are putting all the blame on white women, I just want to let everyone know, I went back and I looked through the numbers. Did you know that Kamala Harris received more votes from white women than Hillary Clinton did? Is it going to be the same amount as black voters? No, but it's been that way for decades. She was a weak candidate. I told you that from the start. Roland Martin is bugging and he's attacking people like Brie and me and anybody who's calling out his friend because he's a Democrat Party operative. There's a reason why he gets to be in those spaces. You don't get to have interviews with Hillary Clinton and Kamala Harris like that unless you in the know, like you're in. That's why. Yeah. Yvonne says Sabby Sabs, the bathtub greens didn't fool anybody. I guess not. You better thank a union member. Oh my God. Yeah. Everyone has someone to blame, folks. I'm going to go tell you about the DNC. The DNC right now is considering Rahm Emanuel for that position. That's right. Jamie Harrison stepped down. So they're considering Rahm Emanuel, the same Rahm Emanuel that closed all of those schools in Chicago. He worked with Obama. That's who they're considering. The Democratic Party ain't learned shit. Boo. Let's go to some of the super chats. Oh my gosh. Thank you, IH. Why our politicians hate us for real. Rome creates a desert and calls it peace. Ituli says Roland, Joy, Sonny, and Van need to be in a post-election supportive therapy group. She didn't win. Thank you, DeAndre. Roland is mad salty because he's looking for a job from the DNC and they ain't answer his calls. And I'm always there when you call, and I'm always on time. Little bit of Ashanti for you. Thank you, Janice. R. Martin doesn't want to hear from you or Brie because he is a misogynist. Oh, you think so? I don't know. I don't know about that. I think he just has big ego. Thank you, Regine. Preach, Roland. LOL, LOL. Thank you, Andre. Black Miss Leadership class. Thanks, New York Varsity. This ain't Harris' friend. He sold himself to do a job. And here he is, sold his soul, and a freaking loser. Deep in Pelosi's ice cream freezer. Thank you, Ava. Roland needs to go get some Frenchie's chicken and fries and cry in his red soda. Be Easy says all he cares about is them cutting a check. He was kissing Kamala's coochie and she didn't give him no check or recognition. You guys are funny. Thanks, Regine says too much, too little, too late for Roland and the Dems. They do not listen to the people. The Oracle says Roland is assessing everything about Kamala's damn campaign policy. Oh, Roland is assessing everything but Kamala's damn campaign policy platform. Yep. Thanks, baby Ethernet. Roland Identity Politics Focus Group with Angela Rye. Thank you, LTS. His third grade teacher would be proud. Thanks, Jasmine. Where were all these Democrat criticisms before? Maybe if you let your party hear it, then they might be better off. But I love it when idiots implode. And thanks, Chris. From now on, anyone who says I'm going through the data is full of shit. All right, guys, that's it for me tonight. Tomorrow, Friday night, I do have a special guest coming on that is going to spill some tea. So stay tuned. You might be interested to hear about that. All right. That's it for me tonight, guys. We're out of here. Have a good night. Keep up the fight.